Chapter 225. It's right beside me. Dong Shuang was shocked. Because of the black dragon's reminder, he had been scanning his surroundings carefully the moment he entered the palace. The black dragon had mentioned that there was a danger of death within the white fog. This made Dong Shuang even more cautious. He did not discover any enemies, but the deity world divine weapon did. Dong Shuang did not hesitate to unleash his gravity domain's power. The surging gravitational force repelled everything around him. Regardless of whether it was the sturdy pillars or the white fog, they were all easily repelled by the gravitational force. Although the white fog floated for a moment, it immediately regained its stability. The gravitational force was actually unable to repel this fog. Something's not right. My gravitational force is able to kill ordinary peak stage Saint-class demons. This fog can actually resist it? Dong Shuang was shocked. Suddenly, a portion of the white fog condensed into a figure. It looked like an ape, and it was wielding two fog sabers. The white fog ape's body was still illusory, but its eyes were filled with lightning. Sila. The two fog sabers were terrifyingly fast. They left behind a trail of lightning in midair before arriving in front of Dong Shuang. Although it took a long time to describe, the white fog ape had condensed and slashed out with the sabers in its hands in an instant. Dang! Dong Shuang was extremely cautious. His reflex was to stab out with his spear. Wherever the spear passed, a black line would appear in the space around it. However, the space around it was completely sealed, and it could not be torn apart. When the spear and the white fog sabers clashed, a metallic sound could be heard. The power of the collision caused Dong Shuang's body to tremble and take a step back. Even so, he continued to stab out with his spear. Shwa shwa shwa. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of black lines appeared. The stellar fire cloud spear turned into countless spear shadows that crazily enveloped the white fog ape. Faster, faster, faster. He pushed his speed to the maximum. Dong Shuang didn't even have time to think. He relied purely on his instincts to stab out with his spear. The true meaning of extreme piercing was already extremely shocking in terms of speed. At this moment, it was on full display. He drew his spear as he retreated, drew his spear as he advanced, and drew his spear as he turned. The traces of black threads were like an inescapable net. Dang, dang, dang. The sound of weapons clashing was very dense. The white mist ape's dual blades were also furiously slashing. The blades formed by his white mist had the feeling of nothingness of the white mist, but they also carried lightning and were shockingly fast. Speed against speed. Enduring a single extreme piercing wasn't much. Being able to face it head-on for 1,000 times was truly amazing. He actually blocked it. Dong Shuang was shocked. This white fog ape is stronger than me, and my true meaning of extreme piercing is more mystical than its saber art. However, it was able to block my attacks head-on. Furthermore, his speed was too fast. His saber technique even incorporated the power of mist and lightning. The black dragon had a large body and great strength, but its battle techniques are too crude. Suddenly, the white fog ape stopped retreating. Its lightning eyes were still staring at Dong Shuang. Human transcendent, the true meaning of your spear technique is truly strange. That piercing power continuously penetrates into my saber, greatly reducing the speed of my saber technique. Otherwise, I would have defeated you long ago. This caused Dong Shuang to be inwardly shocked. So its speed could actually be even faster? That's right. Although it had blocked extreme piercing, the power contained within extreme piercing still greatly affected its saber technique. You can block one of me, but what about 4 of me? The white fog ape suddenly revealed a cold smile. Its figure started to disperse. It dispersed into 4 illusory figures. The 4 illusory figures gathered the surrounding white mist and formed 4 white fog apes. These 4 white fog apes each held a curved saber with both hands and stared at Dong Shuang. 4. Dong Shuang's expression changed. Kill. The 4 white fog apes surrounded him at the same time. Their speed was terrifyingly fast, and they instantly closed in. As the saying went, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. It was too difficult to defend against the encirclement of 4. Under the suppression of the gravity domain, Dongbua Shui Ying's spear technique changed. Countless spear shadows of the stellar fire cloud spear danced around, sweeping, collapsing, blocking, leading, twisting, whipping, sealing. In an instant, a red cloud appeared in Dongbua Shui Ying's line of sight. The red cloud seemed to revolve like the stars in the sky, forming an impenetrable defense. The true meaning of star was formed by the earth containing water, fire, and wind. Although it did not have the terrifying penetrative power of extreme piercing, it was boundless and boundless. It could contain everything. His spear technique was also able to contain everything. It was like moving clouds and flowing water without a single flaw. A single spear was actually able to block the encirclement of 4 white fog apes. What? This human transcendence defense is so strong. The white fog apes were shocked. Pung! While defending, Dongbua Shui Ying's spear also contained a surging force. With a sweep of his spear, 3 white fog apes were sent flying. You are split into 4, so it is indeed harder to defend. However, your strength and speed have been reduced. You are still not my match. After sweeping away 3 white fog apes, Dongbua Shui immediately followed up with a ferocious stab of extreme piercing through the body of the last white fog ape. The white fog ape's eyes widened in shock. Then it completely dissipated and reformed in the distance. They were condensed from fog. Their gathering and dispersing were unpredictable. It was impossible to kill them. At the very least, demigods did not have the means to kill them. I don't believe that a saint transcendent like you can defeat me. No saint transcendent has ever defeated me before. The white fog apes roared. Who? The 4 white fog apes frantically attacked Dongbua Shui. One moment they would surround him. The next, they would combine into one, forming the strongest white fog ape. The white fog apes even split into 2. The 2 white fog apes, whose strength had been reduced, attacked simultaneously. However, it was useless. No matter how the white fog apes attacked, Dongbua Shui was able to block them. Moreover, as the battle progressed, Dongbua Shui began to ponder more about his spear techniques. He also gained a deeper understanding of the true meaning of extreme piercing and the true meaning of star. Battle was a practical test of his spear techniques. This allowed Dongbua Shui spear techniques to improve continuously. Goen, the white fog ape, who had retreated a distance away, seemed a little lonely. He stood in the main hall and said in a low voice, I can't defeat you. I can't stop you. I really didn't expect that I would lose to a saint. Ever since I was born, I have never lost to a saint in the 8 million years since I was born. Never. Ever since he was refined until now. This was the first time he was helpless against a saint. Although Dongbua Shui didn't destroy him, his body was formed from fog. Even a demigod or a deity, like the Dragon Mountain Emperor, wouldn't be able to destroy him. Therefore, as long as he couldn't defeat an enemy, it meant that he had lost. However, brat, I am the gatekeeper of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dongbua Shui with eyes filled with electricity. In this black wind deity palace, the other fellows are all stronger than me. Moreover, they will only get stronger. You're still too weak. I advise you to give up. You're already so strong as a saint. Your potential is shocking. Wait until you become a demigod before coming back. At that time, you will have hope of reaching the deepest part of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The second chapter. Chapter 226. I still want to try. Dongbua Shui walked towards the side door of the palace. The white fog ape looked at Dongbua Shui back and shook his head. He is overestimating himself. This saint is the most promising transcendent I have ever seen. I hope he doesn't die inside. He won. Outside the door of the palace, the huge black dragon's golden eyes were wide open and filled with shock. Its huge head directly extended to the doorstep of the palace and looked at the white fog ape inside. Hey, Wulei, Didn't you always brag to me about how powerful you are? Are you calling me stupid? What's wrong with you today? You can't even win against a saint? You stupid dragon. The white fog ape was slightly embarrassed. Didn't I still get defeated? How can I be the same as you? I was defeated by his true meaning of gravity. My body is too big and is restrained by him. Otherwise, I would have sent him flying with my tail. The giant dragon looked through the door and was slightly worried. Sigh, this kid is forcing his way in. I hope he doesn't die in there. The white fog ape dissipated completely and turned back into white fog that permeated the entire palace. He had been living like this for hundreds of thousands of years. The corridor was 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide. The walls were sparkling like jade and as smooth as a mirror. The corridor was at least 1,000 meters deep. Wielding the stellar fire cloud spear, Dongbua Shui Ying walked alone. He used his gravity domain to scan the surroundings while maintaining an extremely strong repulsive force. After walking for 1,000 meters, a green staircase appeared in front of him. It extended downwards. Dang, dang, dang. Following the staircase, he walked for close to 200 meters before reaching the next level. And Dongbua Shui Ying's expression changed. Boom! The strong repulsive force of gravity forced out a hidden living being at the corner of the wall. Previously, the corner of the wall looked ordinary, and one couldn't see any living being hiding there. However, after passing through the array and reaching the next level, the hidden living being naturally resisted the force of gravity and was exposed. Chi. This hidden creature seemed to break free from the wall, twisting and transforming into a gray-robed man. The gray-robed man carried a pair of short black sticks on his back. He grimaced in pain as he touched his face. His face seemed to have been needed to look like a normal human. I was actually discovered by you. To be able to defeat that stupid dragon and Lei Wu, a saint-tier transcendent like you really does have some ability. The gray-robed man's voice sounded like metal rubbing against stone, hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. But you're just a saint-level transcendent. It's impossible for you to defeat me. Boom! The gray-robed man approached in an instant. He held a short stick in each of his hands. The short sticks were about 4 feet long, and he waved them. The short pole was brandished out. It was as if it was tearing apart the world. It brought along a terrifying power that made Shui Ying apprehensive as it came crushing over. Even before exchanging blows, Shui Ying could rely on his gravity domain to sense the surrounding space to determine that the power of this pole had far surpassed his. But the speed of this short pole was similarly frighteningly fast, and he did not have the time to retreat. He could only resist. He didn't even dare to face it head-on and tried his best to divert the force. The rod slashed downwards, and the spear's shadow collided with it like a swimming dragon. It was incomparably slippery, but Dongbua Shui Ying's expression still changed. His hands went numb, and he couldn't help but stagger. Boom! Almost instinctively, the gray-robed man's other hand slashed out with the short rod as well. It was too fast. One rod followed the other like a windmill. It was too hasty, and Dongbua Shui Ying barely managed to block the spear in front of him. Boom! Following the sound of the collision, the stellar fire cloud spear's shaft was bent, and the bent spear shaft struck Dongbua Shui Ying's chest. Even though the boundless force of the impact was weakened by the true meaning of star, Dongbua Shui Ying was still sent flying backwards. Fortunately, this attack was blocked by the spear shaft before it reached his body. Boom! The gray-robed man's hands were like windmills, and he swung his rod a third time. Dongbua Shui Ying, whose arms were numb, tried his best to block the attack, but he was a step too slow. One rod. It landed squarely on Dongbua Shui Ying's abdomen. Xiao! Dongbua Shui Ying's entire body was like a ray of light, and he was sent flying, crashing into one of the green steps behind him. Pa! Dongbua Shui Ying felt that 6 of his bones were broken. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, and his face turned pale. Demigod Peak Stage. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the gray-robed man with a pale face. In terms of strength, the Black Dragon had also reached the Demigod Peak Stage. But could the two of them be the same? Those with a huge body would usually have great strength. The difference in size between a human and an ant would naturally be huge as well. By the same logic, the black dragon's body was too huge, and its advantage in size allowed it to excel in strength. However, this gray-robed man was different. He only had the height of a human, but his strength was at the demigod peak stage. Furthermore, his rod techniques also contained the profound mysteries of space. What about him? He had grasped hold of 3 true intents, but in terms of strength, he was only at the level of an experienced demigod. In a head-on clash, he was completely suppressed. Boom! When Dongbua Shui Ying landed on the steps, the gray-robed man had already appeared in front of him. At this point, Dongbua Shui Ying did not even have the time to retaliate. Enough! A loud roar. Boom! The greenish-gray bracelet on Dongbua Shui Ying's wrist instantly transformed into a green armored protector. The green armored protector slapped out furiously, causing layers of space to distort like the ripples on the surface of water. The gray-robed man's expression changed. He swung out the rod in his right hand, smashing it directly towards the green armored protector's terrifying palm. The two of them clashed. The green armored protector stood at his original position, not moving at all. However, the gray-robed man was sent flying backwards and landed on the ground. The deity world warrior of the Xia people? The gray-robed man frowned. You are also a deity world warrior, right? The green armored protector coldly said, but a weaker one. I'm only the 5th of the 5 shadows. What does it matter if you win against me? If you have the ability, then beat my big brother. The gray-robed man coldly snorted. The deity world warriors of the ancestors of the Xia people sent back to their homeland had all reached the threshold of a demigod. Under the restrictions of the laws of heaven and earth, they were the strongest deity world warriors that could be sent down. The stronger ones had already surpassed the limits of the laws of heaven and earth. The green armored protector's strength was comparable to the demonic avatar of the purple-armored skinny demon general. And that demon general was comparable to Mountain Lord He, who wielded the deity weapon. Even the demonic avatar had a portion of the original strength. The green armor protector could definitely be considered as one of the top 10 demigods. Moreover, they had an advantage over ordinary demigods. They were absolutely undying. Even with an undying body, they could still be killed. But they did not even have the possibility of being killed. At the very least, demigods could not do it. Even the Dragon Mountain Emperor, who had become a deity, could not hope to do so. Those that could destroy deity world warriors were much stronger than the Dragon Mountain Emperor. Brat, you're not my opponent. This deity world warrior of the Xia people is very strong. He has the strength of one of the top 10 demigods, and he can defeat me. But if you want to pass through me, you must rely on your own strength. Otherwise, you will be going against Master's rules. Going against Master's rules, isn't something a deity world warrior can block. The gray-robed man stood there, the 2 black rods in his hands casually inserted behind his back. Go back and cultivate. Come back again when your transcendent chi reaches the peak of the demigod level. Snow Eagle, let's go. The green armored protector turned to look at Dongbua Shui Ying. The master of the Black Wind Deity Palace is, after all, an existence that could suppress an era. The deity palace that he left behind is not so easy to break through. I know. Dongbua Shui Ying also stood up and touched his chest. His bones and internal organs were rapidly recovering. I didn't expect that after just entering the deity palace and defeating the gatekeeper, I would be crushed on the stairs of the corridor. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head lightly. He stretched out his hand, and the green armor protector immediately turned into a stream of energy and wrapped around Dongbua Shui Ying's wrist. Originally, I wanted to rely on my own strength to break through and see how far I can go. Seems like the gap is too big. It's good that you know the gap is big, the gray-robed man said indifferently. If you didn't have the deity world warrior of the Xia people, I would definitely teach you an unforgettable lesson. The gap is big, and I can't fight head-on. Dongbua Shui Ying laughed. But can you touch me now? Hua! Dongbua Ying disappeared without a trace. Where's he? Where's he? The gray-robed man was shocked. He looked around. How could he disappear without a trace? Master's deity palace is filled with layers of arrays, and the space is sealed. How could he disappear without a trace? Where did he go? He couldn't find Dongbua Ying at all. In the other world, the other side of the real world, who would have thought that I would be forced to use this move so quickly? The black-robed teenager walked in a vast world. This world was like a reflection of the real world, and it was exactly the same as the real world. But this was the mirage. Only those who had sufficient understanding of the mirage could enter this mysterious world with their bodies. The true meaning of mirage had a lower offensive power than a grade 3 true meaning. But in the mirage, it was extremely difficult for an expert from the real world to attack, or even discover it. When he reached the entrance of the Black Wind Deity Palace, Dongbua Ying discovered it. Teleportation? The space was sealed, and he couldn't teleport. Extreme piercing? The Black Wind Deity Palace was enveloped by an extremely powerful force, and the obstruction of piercing was too great. But the mirage? The arrays of the Black Wind Deity Palace could not affect the mirage at all. Experts who could control the mirage were known as the most terrifying assassins. It was easy to obstruct extreme piercing, but to obstruct the mirage, one had to meet an existence with a higher level of understanding of the true meaning of mirage, or one could completely isolate the world. The real world and the mirage were completely isolated, but these two aspects were too difficult. In the history of the Xia people, other than Dongbua Ying, there was only one other person who had grasped the grade 2 true meaning. And the true meaning of mirage was extremely rare, even amongst grade 2 true meanings. To meet another person who could control the mirage, how difficult would that be? As for obstructing the real world and the mirage, that was something only a god could do. Who? Dongbua Ying walked in the mirage. Where is he? Why did he disappear? How is this possible? What kind of law of profound mysteries is this? How could he avoid Master's arrays? The gray-robed male did not dare believe it. Pa! A hand appeared out of nowhere, appearing above his head and patting it. You can slowly search here. Dongbua Ying's teasing voice could be heard. Amen. The gray-robed male waved his palm upwards, but the space above him was empty. Dongbua Ying had already retracted his palm back into the mirage. What technique has he grasped? The gray-robed male looked in all directions. Dongbua Ying was strolling in the mirage, heading deeper into the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Black Wind Deity Palace was protected by layers of arrays in the real world, but it was unobstructed in the mirage. Everything was under Dongbua Ying's observation. Under his observation, Dongbua Ying discovered many obstacles and dangers within the Black Wind Deity Palace. There were also many existences stronger than the gray-robed male. The Black Wind Deity Palace's terrifying strength was not just for show. But no matter how terrifying it was useless, because they could not discover Dongbua Ying, who was in the mirage, let alone attack him. Chapter 228. In one of the halls of the Black Wind Deity Palace, a gold man clad in a gray robe, whose entire body seemed to be cast from gold, was sitting on the main seat. The gold man had a pair of glowing golden eyes. Just by sitting there, he emitted a formless pressure, as though he was a towering mountain. Big brother. There were 4 figures standing beside him. These 4 figures were the gray-robed man, the red-haired handsome youth, the bewitching and beautiful woman, and the calm and indifferent child who had fought with Dongbua Ying previously. We have searched the entire Black Wind Deity Palace, but we couldn't find that Dongbua Ying. The red-haired handsome youth hastily said, Old 5. The bewitching woman smiled lightly, and the surroundings seemed to be filled with color. This smile of hers was enough to move the hearts of many transcendents. However, the 4 beside her were deity warriors, so they weren't affected at all. Are you mistaken? Master's attainments in arrays are extremely high. If a powerful transcendent spent time to slowly decipher the arrays he set up, I would believe it. But you said that he disappeared without a trace. That's too ridiculous. He indeed disappeared without a trace. The gray-robed man was somewhat angry. Second brother, you didn't find him either? The gold man looked at the indifferent child. The indifferent child nodded lightly. I didn't find him. I went to the place where old Five was guarding and carefully searched, but I couldn't find him. Oh, the gold man pondered. At this moment, in the mirage, Dong Shuang was watching these five with interest. From their conversation, he had already deduced that these five should be the so-called five shadows. From the vague sense of threat he felt, each one was stronger than the last, especially the gold man. The pressure he brought with him was even stronger than the green-armored protector who was protecting him. This was normal. The green-armored protector formed by the green-gray bracelets specialized in protection. As for the gold man, Dong Shuang deduced that he was a deity warrior who specialized in attacking. The number of deity warriors of the Xia people can be counted on one hand. Dong Shuang thought to himself. However, every single one of them has reached the limits of the natural laws of the heaven and earth. As for the celestial world warriors in the Blackwind deity palace, there are weak ones and strong ones. That weak, gray-robed man was easily sent flying by the green-armored guardian. However, the other four are getting stronger and stronger. Even if they are slightly weaker, there are still five celestial world warriors. Dong Shuang was shocked. Celestial world warriors? Those were made by a god, and there were five of them at once? Dong Shuang also suspected that the white fog ape guarding the entrance of the palace was a celestial world warrior. However, it was a celestial world warrior that was slightly weaker than the gray-robed man. Also, in the depths of the Black Wind deity palace, there was an existence that seemed to be from the deity realm. In total, there were 7 of them. No wonder the palace Lord Chun was so vague about it. Dong Shuang thought to himself, there must be some secrets behind it. Hua! The gold man, who was sitting on the throne, stood up and said coldly, all of you go back to your own places. I'm going to see that water rat. That water rat, relying on the fact that Master trusted him the most, always puts on airs in front of us. How annoying. The red-haired handsome young man curled his lips. In terms of strength, he is even weaker than Big Brother. Logically speaking, we should be in charge of the Black Wind deity palace. However, before Master died, he let that water rat take charge of it. The gray-robed man snorted as well. All right. The gold man frowned and immediately left. In the mirage, Dong Shuang followed the gold man. Soon, the gold man arrived at a garden. In the garden, there was a lake that was several hundred meters wide. The water in the lake was pitch black. On the shore of the black lake, the ground was as smooth as a mirror. A black rat, about half a meter tall, was sitting cross-legged like a human. The black rat's whiskers drooped down, and its eyes were closed as it silently cultivated. Dong! 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 As the gold man walked, the earth seemed to shake. The smooth ground of the entire garden started to tremble, and the black lake started to roll. Bossing, it's rare that you come to see me. Do you want to fight? Every time? The black rat opened its eyes, revealing a pair of bright, black eyes. I can't beat you, but you can't do anything to me either. What's the point of fighting? Isn't it because Master trusted me the most and handed everything to me, letting me take charge? I'm not fighting anymore. The gold man said coldly, we are about to be freed. I'm afraid that we will soon leave this Black Wind deity palace. There's no need to fight anymore. You mean the human Dong Shuang? Why? You 5 shadows have your own specialties, but you can't find him? The black rat was shocked. He was in charge of the entire Black Wind deity palace's array. From the moment Dong Shuang disappeared, he was already on guard. I can't find him. The gold man shook his head. The black rat frowned. The frown of a rat was quite cute. Suddenly, he looked at the void beside him. Dong Shuang, you should be here, right? Amen. The gold man's expression changed slightly. Haha, your guess is correct. I'm indeed here. However, you can't find me. Dong Shuang's voice reverberated within the garden, causing the gold man and the black rat to be startled. He was really here? The black rat continued, My master has only condensed a deity heart by relying on a grade 3 true meaning. Even though he had some fortuitous encounters and had great accomplishments in the field of arrays. Even though he had some fortuitous encounters and had high achievements in the field of arrays, when it comes to true meanings of a higher grade, like the legendary grade 2 true meanings, or even the unimaginable grade 1 true meanings, they are too strange and cannot be guarded against. You should have grasped hold of an extremely strange grade 2 true meaning, right? Is it impossible for me to have grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning? Donghua Shuang teased. His voice continued to reverberate. If you had grasped hold of a grade 1 true meaning, I'm afraid you would have been able to sweep through everything. The black rat laughed. It's impossible for you to be injured by the fifth shadow. Who? Within this peaceful garden, a black-robed teenager walked out from the void. He was none other than Donghua Shuang. The gold man and the black rat looked curiously at this black-robed teenager, carefully scrutinizing his appearance and figure. What are the two of you doing? Donghua Shuang felt somewhat uncomfortable being stared at like this. For you to be able to defeat the gatekeeper, Lei Wu, and survive against the fifth shadow, you must have grasped hold of at least a grade 2 true meaning, the black rat said. You've also grasped hold of an extremely strange and unfathomable grade 2 true meaning. In other words, you must have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. In the history of the Xia people, other than you, there hasn't been anyone as formidable as you. The most heaven-defying transcendent in the history of the Xia people, the black rat exclaimed. Donghua Shuang laughed. I've already broken through the layers of arrays and arrived at the deepest part of this god palace. I would like to ask if I have succeeded, and if I can obtain the treasures left behind by Senior Black Wind? The gold man and the black rat exchanged glances. Did it count? My master has arranged for a black dragon to guard the outer perimeter. This black dragon is a refiner organism personally refined by my master. The black rat said. As for the gatekeeper, Lei Wu, he is a deity warrior. Behind him are the 5 shadows, each stronger than the last. They all have their own specialties, and breaking through their obstructions is extremely difficult. Other than that, there are also the obstructions from the arrays. For example, after defeating the first shadow, you still need to forcefully break through an array. Usually, only someone with a combat power comparable to my master, or in other words, a deity, can break through it. Only after breaking through it can you reach my place. The black rat laughed, his whiskers curling up. But you can't even win against the fifth shadow. However, I still have to say that you have succeeded. The black rat grinned. My master only said that by relying on one's true strength to break through the layers of obstructions and arrive before me, the Xia people's transcendence can obtain everything he left behind. Indeed, you have relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions. Donghua Shuang revealed a joyous expression. He had actually succeeded? By relying on the true meaning of mirage, those obstructions could not obstruct him at all. And he had arrived here. And he had succeeded? He was just asking, and he didn't have much hope for it. He was still thinking that even if he did not succeed, he could always try again in the future when he was stronger. Donghua Shuang, you have grasped hold of at least 2 grade 2 true meanings. If you're not qualified, who is? The gold man said. You have indeed relied on your own strength to break through the layers of obstructions. Chapter 229. Actually, both the black rat and the gold man were eager to leave this place. Being stuck in a cavern palace for tens of thousands of years was too cruel. But the previous generations of Xia people were indeed not strong enough. Those grade 3 and grade 4 true meanings Xia people demigods could even use deity weapons to break through. But to break through head-on, one had to be as strong as Ancestor Blackwind. But in the tens of thousands of years after Ancestor Blackwind's death, none of the transcendents had reached such a realm. It was too difficult. Donghua Shuang could not break through head-on. But even Ancestor Blackwind did not say that he had a breakthrough head-on. My true meaning is mysterious enough to easily break through all obstacles. There is no need to fight head-on. This is also strength. Breaking through obstacles, relying on your own strength. And Xia people transcendence. The black rat said, if you meet these 3 criteria, you will succeed. Of course you will succeed. Where are the treasures left behind by Ancestor Blackwind? Dongbua Shuiying looked around. The black rat and gold man looked at each other. It's not in the Blackwind deity palace. The black rat said honestly. Not in. Dongbua Shuiying stared. The gold man said, it's like this. That year, Master prevented experts who became deities from robbing him. He also prevented the Beast Clan and outsiders from robbing him. Thus, Master's treasures are not in the Blackwind deity palace. Instead, they're in an extremely safe place. After all, everything left behind by Master can only be given to the Xia people. We cannot let outsiders take advantage of it. Right? Dongbua Shuiying nodded. He then asked curiously, if that's the case, why didn't Ancestor Blackwind leave his treasures to the infernal palace of the Xia people? Instead, he built the Blackwind deity palace and left it to the later generations of the Xia people. Many transcendents and even demigods would leave some of their treasures to their own sects before they died. Most of them would stay in the infernal palace. The infernal palace was shared by the entire Xia people. This agreement, the black rat said, that year, Master also wanted to leave his treasures to the infernal palace. However, during the discussion with the palace head, there was a disagreement and they had a huge argument. From then on, all of Master's treasures were not left in the infernal palace. Instead, he hid them away. Quarrel? Dongbua Shuiying was puzzled. He could feel that this senior Blackwind still cared about the Xia people. Otherwise, why would he spend so much effort before his death? Back then, Senior Blackwind was the undisputed #1 expert of the Xia people. Back then, he had truly suppressed an entire era. He actually quarreled with the infernal palace master of that era. Why are you so noisy? Is there any disagreement? Dongbua Shuiying asked curiously. I don't know about that. Master didn't tell me either, said the black rat. Dongbua Shuiying mumbled to himself. An existence that could suppress an era? Quarrel with Palace Master? He actually has a total of 7 celestial warriors? Although most of them were weaker. You'll know when you get your hands on Master's treasures. The black rat said. Master also said that everything is within his treasures. Many treasures, including our warrior talismans, are all there. If you want us to listen to your orders, you have to get the talismans first. Where's the treasures? Dongbua Shuiying asked. Mfumph. The black rat was delighted. Only the water rat knows. The gold man laughed. No one else knows. Therefore, even if a god came and caught the water rat by force, even a water rat can't go against its master's orders and say it. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the black rat. Get out. The black rat said to the gold man. You even dare to hide it from me. The gold man shook his head. However, he still turned and walked out of the garden. Only Dongbua Shuiying and the black rat were left in the garden. Dongbua Shuiying was also curious. Where exactly did this ancestor Blackwind hide the treasures? In the deepest part of this Blackwind deity palace. The black rat said, there is a huge hall. Within that hall, there is a hidden door to the world. It leads to a major, transcendent world. This is a unique, major transcendent world. It grows within the folds of the world's outer layer. It is completely sealed, and the world membrane cannot be torn apart. The transcendent natives of this major, transcendent world have never been able to tear through space and enter the mortal world. Oh, Dongbua Shuiying was shocked. No wonder. No wonder no one knew about this 9th major transcendent world. It grew in a completely sealed environment. Because the folds of the outer layer of the world were sealed, it was not connected to the space layer. To tear apart this completely sealed world membrane, it was equivalent to tearing apart the outermost layer of the mortal world. That was way too difficult. Normally, tearing apart space would only tear apart the innermost layer of the membrane and enter the space layer. Outside the space layer was the thickest outer layer of membrane. This outer layer of membrane enveloped the mortal world, as well as all the minor and major transcendent worlds. Because the major transcendent worlds were connected to the mortal world, the connection formed a world gate. This sealed major transcendent world's only exit was this world gate. Master's treasure is hidden deep underground in this major transcendent world. The black rat said, "I'll give you the map." He's not afraid of being discovered and snatched away. Dong Ying was shocked. Firstly, the treasure is very unique. Other than being able to see it with the naked eye, no other methods of detection can detect it. Using the naked eye to find a treasure in the vast underground of a major transcendent world, who will be able to find it? Before this, no one knew that there was a treasure there. No one would be stupid enough to slowly search for it with the naked eye. The black rat said. Secondly, even if they found it, they wouldn't be able to open it. The key to open it is with me. Thirdly, the entrance to the world gate can only be used by human transcendence. Combined, it's definitely safe. The black rat was confident. He stretched out his hand. An octagonal black talisman appeared on his furry paw. This is the key. Take it. Dong Ying took it. I'll draw the map for you. The black rat waved its little paw, and the waves in the black lake immediately flew up. These waves immediately began to form a huge three-dimensional pattern in midair. This is the detailed map of the major transcendent world. The treasure is right there. The black rat pointed at a part of the huge three-dimensional map. Instantly, a golden light shone from it. Who? The huge map dissipated. The water waves returned to the lake. I'll give you the key. I'll also tell you the map. The black rat said, you have to be careful. After all, this is a major transcendent world. After tens of thousands of years, no one knows which transcendent natives are in this major transcendent world. There were strong and weak transcendent natives. For example, the second-ranked demigod, Fire Demon Emperor. Within his fire demon world, he was invincible. Mountain Lord he and the rest were also oppressed when they entered with deity weapons. Thus, one could not underestimate the transcendent natives. Originally, with the key and all the information, it would be easy to obtain the treasure. However, your strength is still too weak. You still have to be careful. The black rat hurriedly said. He did not want Dong Ying to die. If Dong Ying died, who knew how long it would take for them to meet the next person who could free them? Don't worry. Dong Ying had already made his decision. Major transcendent world? It might be dangerous. However, with the true meaning of mirage, he would still be able to explore it. As long as he was careful, he could just send his chi avatar in. Chi avatars were at the same realm as the main body. They could travel within the mirage. Right, that underground hall seemed to have been damaged. There were traces of battle. Ying hurriedly said. It was precisely because of the traces of battle that the walls of the underground Great Hall were torn apart, allowing him to survive that year. You know about it? The black rat was surprised. Yes, a terrifying battle happened there. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Chapter 230. Master was the strongest demigod mage in the past 1,000,000 years. The black rat said, as he neared the end of his lifespan, Master was not willing to die just like that. Hence, he conducted some experiments in the major transcendent world. The Black Wind Deity Palace was ultimately too small. A major transcendent world was big enough for many experiments to be conducted. In the end, a terrifying existence was created. That terrifying existence fought with Master, and the battle was devastating. Master was defeated and retreated to the Black Wind Deity Palace from the major transcendent world. Dong Ying was inwardly shocked. An existence that could suppress an era? He was defeated and escaped to the Black Wind Deity Palace. What terrifying thing did the Black Wind ancestor create in his final experiment? That terrifying existence was extremely powerful. Master's array at the World Gate could not stop it. It forced its way into the Black Wind Deity Palace. In the underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace, Master had a life and death battle with it. Master did not dare to let it leave. Once it entered the mortal world, it would bring a calamity to the Xia people. The Black Wind Deity Palace was where Master set up layers of arrays. It was also the place where Master could unleash his strongest power. If he left the Black Wind Deity Palace, Master would no longer be able to stop that terrifying existence. For the sake of the Xia people, to resolve the calamity he created, Master spared no expense. In the end, he dealt with that terrifying existence. Master was already nearing the end of his lifespan. After the battle, Master died soon after. The Black Rat said. Donghua Shui nodded his head lightly. He sighed inwardly. A peak transcendent mage that could suppress an era. He desired to become a god, but created a terrifying existence. He had to resolve the calamity he created himself. After resolving it, his lifespan would be gone. Is becoming a god so difficult? Donghua Shui shook his head. Every generation of the Xia people had a group of demigods. But how many gods were there? Is there anything else you want to tell me? Donghua Shui smiled. If not, I will be leaving. You don't have to be in a rush to retrieve the treasure. The Black Rat placed its claws in front of its chest. That is a major, transcendent world. Even if it takes another 1,000 years, we can afford to wait. Don't worry, I have my own plans. I will be leaving first. Shui immediately turned around. With a single step, he disappeared. At the bottom of the Black Wind Abyss, a black-robed young man walked out from the main entrance of the palace. Impressive. The ape form from the white mist looked at Donghua Shui with admiration. You succeeded? The black dragon, who was coiled up outside the cave, extended his head towards Donghua Shui. His huge golden eyes were filled with excitement. Donghua Shui, you actually succeeded. You're just a transcendent saint. This is too amazing. I, old dragon, really admire you. Quickly tell me, how did you defeat the 5 shadows? Especially Boss Ying. The leader of the 5 shadows was the Gold Man. His combat prowess was the strongest in the entire cavern palace. In front of the Gold Man, the black dragon could only be casually trampled. It's a secret. Donghua Shui grinned. You're still keeping a secret? The black dragon glared. Remember, you guys must not leak out the news of my success. Donghua Shui said. Strictly speaking, I've only succeeded half of the time. I have yet to obtain your command talismans, and am unable to bring you guys away. Don't worry. The black dragon nodded. We will definitely keep this a secret. Currently, the refiner life forms and deity warriors of the Black Wind Deity Palace were standing on the side of Donghua Shui. Once Donghua Shui obtained the talismans and other items, he would become their master. All of them were longing for that day. After all, it was too depressing to be cooped up in this place. Xiao! Donghua Shui figure flashed and appeared far away. His current speed was simply too fast. On the Black Wind Cliff, Jing Xiao was waiting anxiously by herself. However, she felt that Senior Snow Eagle's safety should be guaranteed. After all, he was accompanied by a deity warrior that specialized in defense. Furthermore, the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace did not have any killing intent towards the transcendence of the Xia people. Shua! Donghua Shui instantly rushed out of the enormous black wind whirlpool. He transformed into a stream of light and flew in front of Jing Xiao. One stood at the edge of the cliff, while the other stood in the air. The two of them faced each other. You're back. How is it? Are you all right? Jing Xiao revealed an expression of joy. You've witnessed the power of the Black Wind Deity Palace, right? Tell me more about the powers of the Black Wind Deity Palace. Looking through the scrolls, not a single transcendent has succeeded in the Black Wind Deity Palace. It's pretty impressive. Donghua Shui held onto Jing Xiao's hand. However, from now on, your senior brother, I, will be the first transcendent to succeed. Jing Xiao was startled and had an astonished expression on her face. You're not lying to me? Jing Xiao asked in disbelief. I really succeeded. When Donghua Shui saw Jing Xiao's expression of disbelief, he laughed. Senior warrior, I didn't lie, right? You've indeed succeeded. The green-gray wristband emitted a stream of air, condensing into a green armored guard. Senior warrior, keep this a secret for now. Dongbua Shuang said. Also, keep my strength a secret as well. Understand. The green-armored guard nodded. With your strength, the fewer people who know about it, the better. Jingxiu, keep this a secret for Dongbua Shuang as well. It won't be long before he becomes the strongest demigod of the Xia people. Jingxiu nodded repeatedly. If Palace Lord Shun was absolutely loyal, then there was no need to doubt the loyalty of the Deity World Warriors. This was because when these Deity World Warriors were sent down, their combat talismans were left behind in the Deity World. Hence, in the world of the Xia people, it was impossible to find their combat talismans. Regardless of who it was, no one would be able to truly refine and control them. These Deity World Warriors would forever follow the orders of their masters, the ancestors of the Xia people in the Deity World. Protect the Xia people forever. The Green-Armored Guard deduced that Dongbua Shui Ying's value to the Xia people had greatly increased. Of course, he would do his best to help Dongbua Shuang. Following which, he transformed back into a green-gray wristband and reappeared on Dongbua Shui Ying's wrist. Let's go back. Dongbua Shui Ying held Jing Xiu's hand, and the two of them transformed into rays of light and flew back to Snorra Castle. One day later, Shua, within a secret underground chamber of Snorra Castle, the red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying stood there. His skin glowed with a fiery red light. This was his Battle Chi doppelganger. The existence of the Battle Chi doppelganger consumed energy at every moment. Even if there was no battle, the Battle Chi doppelganger could only last for close to a year. Before the time was up, it had to return to its original body. Otherwise, the strand of soul in the Battle Chi doppelganger would be gone. That would harm the very source of the soul. The red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying also wore a green-gray wristband on his wrist. This time, I'll have the trouble senior. Snow Eagle, your true meaning is profound. Even the demigods in the major transcendent world might not be able to harm you. I will also do my best to protect you. The green-gray wristband rippled. Let's go. The red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying's figure distorted, and he disappeared from sight. In another world, the mirage, the red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying appeared. He was flying at high speed towards the black wind abyss. Regardless of whether it was the walls, mountains, or rivers, nothing could obstruct him, because the distance was too close, and his flying speed was too fast, even though he was flying normally. Without using his full strength or transforming into particles, he still arrived at the underground hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace in just 1 or 2 seconds. Underground hall. The hall was over 300 meters tall, and it was close to a kilometer in length and width. Even the current Dongbua Shui Ying felt shocked when he saw this hall. But to Senior Black Wind, it was still too small. During the last period of his life, Senior Black Wind had conducted experiments in the major transcendent world. Even a major transcendent world had become his experimental ground. The hall is still in ruins. Shui Ying revealed a grin. Many of the stone pillars in this great palace hall were broken, and some had collapsed. Many places were in ruins, and the distant walls of the hall were filled with savage scars. The material used to build this hall was very special, and it had been specially refined. Even if the current Dongbua Shui Ying were to fight with his full strength, he wouldn't be able to injure it in the slightest. But the great battle that Senior Black Wind fought back then had caused this place to be in a mess. Only by borrowing the advantage of the layers of arrays in his palace did he manage to deal with that terrifying existence. It's still in ruins. I lived here for 6 years, but the monkey and birdie are no longer here. Dongbua Shui Ying was all too familiar with this place. The monkey and birdie were the 2 trump cards of the Dongbua clan. They were the ones who dealt with the enemies. Gate of the World. Dongbua Shui Ying came to the front of a wall with great familiarity. The wall was sparkling and translucent. With a flick of his hand, a strand of transcendent dough chi seeped into the wall of the palace. The wall immediately changed, and a huge gate that was over 100 meters tall appeared. A ripple came from the gate, and it was transmitted into Dongbua Shui Ying's mind. Black Wind. On the other side of this gate is a major transcendent world. Those who have not reached the Saint Realm are not allowed to enter. The ripple even transmitted a map and explanation. Demigod, Dongbua Shui, Ying revealed a smile. The most dangerous thing to face in this major transcendent world would be the native demigod. But there might be no demigods in this major transcendent world, or a terrifying demigod might be born there. Everything was unknown. I will travel within the mirage realm and scout everywhere. Let's see if the demigods in this major transcendent world can discover me. Dongbua Shui thought to himself, if they can't discover me, the demon generals might not be able to discover me as well. Traveling within the mirage realm, one could scout everything. The demon generals were hidden in various places in the mortal world, hiding within their battleships. Battleships might be able to conceal them from the heaven and earth energy. However, scouting within the mirage realm, even gods would find it hard to block it. The only thing that Dongbua Shui was worried about was that he might be discovered by the demon generals when he was scouting within the mirage realm. If they can't discover me, I will be able to find their hiding spots and wipe them all out. Dongbua Shui thought to himself, I'll give it a try first. The native demigod should be of a lower cultivation realm than the demon generals. If even the native demigod could discover me, then my true meaning of mirage would have to be at a higher cultivation realm to prevent them from detecting me. Oh, with a step, Dongbua Shui flew through the 100-meter tall gate on the wall of the palace. After passing through it, he entered the major transcendent world. Chapter 231. In this vast major transcendent world, within an identical mirage, the red-robed Shui was flying at high speed, sticking close to the grass of the wasteland. Hoo! The grass of the wasteland swept past his body. Even if he crashed into some hills, he would pass through them easily. It was as though everything was an illusion. The mirage dimension reflected the real world. With Dongbua Shui current strength, he could control the mirage dimension within 1,000 li radius. In the sky, on the ground, in all directions, a sphere with a diameter of 1,000 li was the area that he could observe. There are quite a lot of transcendent materials here. Under his observation, he naturally discovered many transcendent materials. Mortal worlds were too stable, and transcendent materials would not appear. As he flew, occasionally, when he encountered some valuable transcendent materials, Dongbua Shui would extend his hand into the real world and grab them. After flying for tens of thousands of li, the transcendent materials he collected were worth more than 30,000 kilograms of origin stones. A large transcendent world that had not been excavated for a long time was indeed a huge treasure trove. However, there were too few large transcendent worlds. The demigod natives were not to be trifled with either. After all, they were all primordial life forms with terrifying innate talent. The expression of Dongbua Shui, who was flying close to the ground, changed. Kaboom! From afar, lightning struck down like a snake. Accompanied by an earth-shattering boom, the lightning snakes slithered about, turning the entire 1,000 li area into a lightning lake. Within the lightning lake, a towering giant with a height of several tens of meters was lying there. He was currently sleeping soundly, and there were streaks of lightning running through his nose and mouth. So powerful, Shui felt an extreme threat. Even though he was far away, he could feel that this towering giant's combat power was completely above his, and the gap between them was very obvious. It should be the combat power of the top 10 demigods. Human transcendents were strong in terms of their true intent and god equipment. Thus, they did not feel too much of a threat from the surface. However, it was different for the transcendent natives. Other than being able to cultivate true intent and use god equipment, the most important thing was that they had terrifying innate talent. Just like in the primordial age, the earliest ancestors of the Xia people were those primordial life forms. At that time, there was no do qi or magic power. They relied purely on their physical strength and bloodline talents. Of course, there was also the profound mysteries of true meanings. Even so, the primordial life forms were extremely powerful, and the most powerful among them had even stepped into the divine level. Just like the demon generals, because of their tyrannical bodies and gifted bloodline, they could fight against the demigods of the Xia people who wielded divine weapons. According to the annotations on Senior Blackwind's map, this large transcendent world has always been isolated from the rest of the world. Therefore, to this day, there is no method to cultivate Do Qi and magic power. Dongbua Shui Ying stared at the transcendent native who was snoring in his deep sleep, but was still able to attract the attention of the thousandly lightning swamp. Since he is in a deep sleep, it is obvious that he did not use his true intent. Just talent? How could he summon lightning within 1,000 miles while he's asleep? His body is emitting a powerful aura. I'm afraid his physical strength is at the peak of the demigod realm. With such a high talent in lightning, his speed must be very fast, and his attacks must be very fierce. Dongbua Shui quickly made some deductions. One must know, demons were divided into lower demons, middle demons, and upper demons. This was mainly due to the difference in talent. It was the same for the transcendent natives. Their talent was also divided into lower, middle, and upper demons. Among them, the upper demons weren't any weaker than some of the peak primordial life forms of the Xia people. His talent is at the top of the middle demons, and he might even be upper demon. Dongbua Shui guessed. His strength is definitely within the top 10 of the demigod rankings. I wonder if he has refined this large transcendent world. In their own large transcendent world, they would be able to control even more heaven and earth energy, and their strength would be much stronger. Furthermore, if their cultivation realm was high enough, they might even be able to refine the world core and control the entire large transcendent world. At that time, they would be able to control the boundless heaven and earth energy that would truly be terrifying. The Fire Demon Emperor, who was ranked second in the demigod rankings, had condensed a true deity heart and had even refined the world core of that large transcendent world. Thus, in his world, he was unparalleled. With the appearance of the Fire Demon Emperor, this thunder demigod shouldn't be that heaven-defying. Dongbua Shui thought. Who? As Dongbua Shui flew within the mirage, the distance between him and the thunder demigod was also shrinking. He's still in a deep sleep and hasn't discovered me. Dongbua Shui let out a sigh of relief. The deity world had long sent down the information regarding the grade 9 true meaning, and the description was indeed true. Walking within the mirage, he would be able to observe everything in the outside world. Because the mirage reflection of reality was a law of nature, Dongbua Shui was able to discover several powerful existences in the real world. They wouldn't be able to detect it. Let alone them. Even deities wouldn't feel anything if they were illuminated by the mirage reflection. However, the mirage reflection would not be able to detect it. But there were life forms flying past the mirage. They were easy to detect. Just like how transcendence borrowed the world energy to investigate, others wouldn't be able to sense it. But if a transcendent were to walk past them, others would be suspicious. It was the same logic. Dongbua Shui was only flying within the mirage. The mirage and the real world were two sides of the same coin. Experts in the real world, if they had a high enough comprehension of the realms, would be able to sense an invisible existence passing by them. One must know that at their level, their perception of the laws of the surrounding world was already extremely high. Dongbua Shui current perception range was only 500 kilometers, and the radius was only 250 kilometers. 250 kilometers? To many apex demigods, that was an absolute perception range. For example, Dongbua Shui true meaning of star had reached the stage 1 realm. His absolute perception range was 50 kilometers away from him. I'm 150 kilometers away from him, but he didn't sense me. Dongbua Shui continued moving closer. 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 50 kilometers, he's still sleeping. Dongbua Shui shook his head inwardly. This thunder demigod's comprehension of the laws of profound mysteries should be weaker. South, Dongbua Shui continued exploring the other regions. It was good news that the thunder demigod hadn't discovered him. Clearly, he was trying to sense a life form flying past him in the mirage. The requirement for one's cultivation realm was too high. This thunder demigod lived in a major transcendent world, isolated from the outside world. He had no enemies and lived a carefree life. His cultivation realm was probably lacking. He was stronger in terms of his physique and bloodline talent. At least this proves one thing. A weaker demigod wouldn't be able to discover me in the mirage. Donghua Shuang thought to himself. Back at the Black Wind Deity Palace, the Gold Man and the Black Rat couldn't discover him either. However, the deity warriors were lacking in terms of cultivation realm. This thunder demigod was a true life form, and his cultivation realm might be higher than the deity warriors, but he still couldn't discover him. I hope the demon generals won't be able to discover me either. Donghua Shuang hoped. As long as they couldn't discover him, he would be able to wipe them all out. Without the 5 demon generals, the remaining weak demon generals wouldn't pose much of a threat. It was fine if the demon generals didn't move, but once they did, it would be a calamity. It was normal for hundreds of millions of mortals to die. As he flew, Donghua Shuang was surprised to discover another native demigod. This was a 6-meter-tall man with dark blue hair and blue skin. However, from the aura he emitted, he should be much weaker than the thunder demigod. He should be at the level of a veteran demigod. Relying on his 3-grade, 2 true meanings, he might be able to defeat him. This time, Donghua Shuang was within the mirage. He was only 10 meters away from this native demigod, but this native demigod didn't notice him at all. Amen. Because Donghua Shuang wanted to test whether he could be discovered while walking in the mirage, the location of the treasure was his final destination. After flying for more than half the distance, Donghua Shuang finally revealed an excited expression. Wow, the Origin Stone Mine. Donghua Shuang was excited. More than 300 kilometers underground, there was a long and thin mine. Within the mine, there were many origin stones. These origin stones were all wrapped by rocks and other miscellaneous items. If one were to peel away the rocks and other miscellaneous items, one would be able to discover the origin stones. The origin stones were gray and unremarkable. They were shaped like cobblestones and had an extremely smooth surface. These origin stones contained the most primordial world energy. They were the source of this large-scale, transcendent world. That's right. Excavating these origin stones was equivalent to excavating the source of this large-scale, transcendent world. If one excavated too many of them, it would cause this large-scale, transcendent world to collapse, and eventually, it would be destroyed. However, after the Great Calamity, this large-scale, transcendent world would gradually be nurtured. It would absorb external energy to replenish itself before giving birth to a new large-scale, transcendent world. Everyone, throw some recommendation votes. Chapter 232. Senior Warrior, I'll have to trouble you to help me excavate the Origin Stone Mine. Donghua Shuang transmitted his spirit force to the green-gray bracelet on his wrist. I've checked. There's a total of 2,900,000 kilograms of origin stones here. You just need to excavate 1,800,000 kilograms. Leaving 1,500,000 kilograms should be enough. Don't excavate too much. If you excavate too much, this large-scale world will collapse. It will take 30,000 years for it to recover. The Xia people won't be able to excavate again in 30,000 years. Don't worry, I know. A ripple came from the green-gray bracelet. Sorry for the trouble. Donghua Shuang waved his hand. The green-gray bracelet was thrown out of the mirage and into the real world by Donghua Shuang. Instantly, the green-gray bracelet transformed into a large amount of green-gray energy. The energy permeated into the origin stone mine, easily shattering the rocks and the origin stones within. You have to be careful when excavating the origin stones. It will take about an hour. The green-gray energy emitted a low voice. All right, Snow Eagle, do you intend to tell the Xia people about this large-scale world? In the near future, I will tell Palace Lord Chun. Dongbua Shuang said. At that time, I will also tell him about the plan to find the demon generals. Killing the demon generals will still depend on Palace Lord Chen's instructions. They would first search for the demon generals. Once they found them, they would surround and kill them. Before that, they would definitely inform Palace Lord Chen. Palace Lord Chen would then arrange for a group of demigods from the Xia people to work together. Hence, no matter what, Palace Lord Chen was the most important link. Dongbua Shuang felt that there was no need to hide anything. As for this large-scale world, actually to ordinary sky and sane transcendence, this was a huge treasure trove. But to Dongbua Shuang, it could be considered a treasure trove. However, after excavating the origin stones, this large-scale world would no longer be of much value to him. He had to leave behind more than 500,000 kilograms of origin stones. This was because these origin stones were the foundation of this large-scale world. If the remaining origin stones were less than 500,000 kilograms, it would not be enough to stabilize the large-scale world. The large-scale world would collapse and be destroyed. If they wanted to slowly nurture a new large-scale world, that would take more than 30,000 years. During this long period of time, the Xia people would not be able to excavate it. As long as 1 million kilograms of origin stones were left behind, the world would only need 3,000 years to recover. So, don't dig it all out, leave a small part. The next generation of demigods could come and poach again. Of course, the prerequisite was that he could break through the obstruction of this large world's demigod natives. Back then, Elder Lei Jun probably wanted to dig for it himself after he became a demigod. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. Senior Black Wind doesn't seem to care about it. However, he hid his treasures in this big world and didn't want to expose them. That's why he didn't make it public. He would take the treasures left behind by Senior Black Wind later. If this large-scale world was exposed, so be it. The origin stones in a large-scale world are around 3 million kilograms. Dongbua Shuang thought, including this one, there are a total of 9 large-scale worlds. In total, it would be around 20 million kilograms of origin stones. In addition to the large number of small-scale transcendent worlds, the total amount of origin stones is not even 50 million kilograms. I'm afraid it might even be 40 million kilograms. This is the total amount. There are some large-scale worlds, such as the Fire Demon world controlled by the Fire Demon Emperor and the Oceanic Forest world, occupied by the Beast race. There is no hope for these 2 large-scale worlds. As for the other large-scale worlds, there are also demigod natives resisting them. The Beast race is still fighting for them. Dongbua Shuang shook his head. After 3,000 years, if the Xia people could dig out 20 million kilograms of origin stones, they would have to thank the heavens and earth. Sky Realm Transcendence, Saint Realm Transcendence, Demigod Transcendence, all of them. For people like Mountain Lord He and Si Kong Yang who had condensed their deity hearts and wanted to become gods, they needed even more origin stones. Thus, the entire Xia people were really short on origin stones. Previously, Palace Lord Chen was afraid that Dongbua Shuang would want to exchange for 2 million kilograms of origin stones in one go. One must know that origin stones were so scarce. The current treasury of the Xia people only had a little more than 3 million kilograms. They were really tight. Palace Lord Chen's heart ached. In view of Dongbua Shuang's great contributions and potential, he was willing to give it to him even though his heart ached. Dongbua Shuang also understood that it was not easy for Palace Lord Chen to be the leader. Thus, he did not want it and dug it himself. Just as Dongbua Shuang was digging for origin stones in the large-scale worlds, beside the sea in a secluded castle. Within a quiet hall within the castle, 2 huge black oil lamps were burning. The green flames flickered, and a strange fragrance filled the entire hall. A figure shrouded in black fog stood alone. In front of him floated a crystal ball. On top of the crystal ball floated an image. In the image was a black-robed, white-haired elder holding a white bone staff. High Priest. The black-robed, white-haired elder smiled. Elder Aolon, why are you looking for me? The figure in the black fog asked. This black-robed, white-haired elder was the existence with the highest status in the Beast Clan, the great elder of the Sorcerer God Palace. He was ranked third on the demigod list. Actually, both the Xia people and the Beast Clan did not completely trust the demigod list. This was because the demigod list was created by the Xia people after collecting a lot of information. Many of the old fellows had not battled for hundreds of years. Who knew if their strength had increased? The demigod list could only be used as a reference. It was impossible to be completely sure. The strength that the demigod list recognized only represented the strength that had already been discovered. It's a very important matter. The black-robed, white-haired elder smiled. You also know that the amazing genius among the humans is called Dongbua Shuang. He has already dealt with the threat of the evil demon's nests. He has even destroyed 3 evil demons' nests by himself. In the last one, not only did he kill Jier Luo, he also killed a small team of reincarnators that was even stronger than him. What are you trying to say? I was the one who told you this information. The figure in the black fog replied. I want to say, this Dongbua Shui Ying has grasped hold of the legendary grade 2 true meaning. If he is allowed to grow, he will be above all the demigods of our era. The black-robed, white-haired elder said, this will be a huge threat to the plans of the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God. I feel that we need to eliminate him immediately. The sooner the better. Eliminate? The figure in the black fog said, if your Sorcerer God Palace wants to eliminate him, just do it. Why bother looking for me? If my Sorcerer God Palace and your demonic faction work together, we will have a higher chance of success. The black-robed, white-haired elder said, the plans of the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God cannot be destroyed. This threat must be eliminated. Oof. The figure in the black fog coldly snorted. All right, Olan, don't treat me as a fool. Whatever our Great Demon God and your Sorcerer God's plan requires our demonic faction to do, we will definitely do it. Not a single one less. There is no need for us to do it, so don't tell us to foolishly risk our lives with just a few words. This Dongbua Shui Ying's current strength is quite high. With the temperament of the Infernal Palace, they must have arranged for deity warriors to protect him. Want to kill him? That's too difficult. He is not worth our demonic faction paying such a huge price. High Priest, why are you so short-sighted? The black-robed, white-haired elder was somewhat angry. I do not dare to disobey the orders of the Great Demon God. Without the orders of the Great Demon God, what qualifications do you, an elder of the Sorcerer God Palace, have to instruct our demonic faction to do things? The figure in the black fog sneered. As for Dongbua Shui Ying's threat, I have long reported it to the Great Demon God. The Great Demon God will make his own decision. If you are really in a hurry, report it to your Sorcerer God and our Great Demon God for discussion. The black-robed, white-haired elder was so angry that his face turned green. He had long reported it to his superiors. However, the Sorcerer God had only asked him to think of a solution himself. After all, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God, these two big shots negotiations were not simple matters. The Sorcerer God was not willing to negotiate with the Great Demon God again, just because of a mere Dongbua Shuang. Good, you are really obedient. Then be obedient and do what you need to do. The Sorcerer God Palace's Great Elder was somewhat angry. The image dissipated. The figure in the black fog coldly snorted. Old man, if not for the orders of the Great Demon God, my demonic faction would not care about you beasts. In a large-scale, transcendent world, Dongbua Shui Ying collected the 1,800,000 kilograms of origin stones and quickly rushed towards the location where the Black Wind ancestor had placed the treasure. In a short moment, Dongbua Shui Ying arrived at a lake. He directly dived into the lake and drilled into the depths of the lake. This was the location of the treasure marked on the map. The feeling of writing wasn't good. After some editing, he was finally able to write 1 chapter. He was still satisfied. The number of chapters he owed was now 3. Chapter 233. Beneath the lake, 300 li underground. Dong Shuang, who was in the mirage, looked around curiously. Where's the treasure? Where's the treasure left behind by Senior Black Wind? Dong Shuang was puzzled. He looked around carefully. The mirage that he controlled covered an area of 1,000 li. According to the map, the treasure should be here. The error shouldn't be more than 1 li, why not? The mirage reflects reality. Treasures in the real world will be reflected in the mirage as well. Why can't I find it? Could it be that after hundreds of thousands of years, the treasure was discovered by a transcendent? Dong Shuang shook his head lightly. It can't be such a coincidence. This is a large-scale world, and it's deep underground. That black rat also said that other than the naked eye, no other methods can detect it. These transcendent natives can only be detected with the naked eye. To find a treasure in the vast, large-scale world, and with such a small number of transcendent natives, they still manage to find it. They must be really lucky. But I can't find it. Dong Shuang frowned and looked around carefully. He was very confident in the mirage. Anything that existed in the real world should be reflected in the mirage. Could it be? Dong Shuang suddenly thought of a possibility. His expression changed. The black rat said that other than the naked eye, no other methods can detect it. Could it be that the mirage can't reflect it? That shouldn't be possible. The real world and the mirage were two sides of the same coin. The mirage reflecting reality was one of the basic rules of nature. If a treasure from the real world could not be reflected in the mirage, this was something that surpassed the basic rules of nature. Even some powerful deities could only isolate themselves from the real world. To prevent the mirage from reflecting reality, the difficulty was much higher. Dong Shuang previously thought that the black rat said that it could only be seen with the naked eye. The mirage reality reflection technique, which was based on the laws of heaven and earth, should not be among them. How is this possible? Even the mirage can't reflect it. How is this possible? Dong Shuang mumbled to himself. Although he couldn't believe it, his body twisted and he passed through the ethereal realm, arriving in the real world. Either it was discovered by a transcendent native by luck and taken away, or the ethereal extent can't reflect this treasure. Dong Shuang shook his head. However, he still chose to travel through the mud. Borrowing the true intent of Star, he became one with the rocks and mud, easily traversing through them. Using his naked eyes to look at the rocks and mud, it was too slow to search with his naked eyes. How long would it take to see everything with the naked eye? Boom! Dong Shuang decided to control the heaven and earth energy to attack the surrounding rocks and soil. At the same time, he also used the heaven and earth energy to isolate the surrounding 10 li, isolating all sound waves. He didn't want to alert those transcendent natives. Countless rocks and soil were wantonly kneaded by the invisible hands. One moment they were kneaded into a big pancake, the next moment they were kneaded into balls. Finally, an ordinary cloth bag was found. What? Dong Shuang looked at the cloth bag in a daze. He estimated that it was only a meter long, an ordinary cloth bag. The opening of the bag was tied up. If an ordinary mortal saw this cloth bag, he wouldn't be surprised. Even if a demigod saw this cloth bag, he would only think that it was a unique treasure. The ethereal extent is actually unable to reflect it. Dong Shuang looked at this ordinary cloth bag in disbelief. The ethereal extent reflects reality. This is one of the fundamental laws of the world. But this law is ineffective on this cloth bag. Dong Shuang did not dare believe it. True meaning of extremity, true meaning of black hole, true meaning of splitting heavens, true meaning of primal chaos. These were all grade 1 true meanings. They represented the core essence of the laws of the world. As for the true meaning of space, true meaning of annihilation, true meaning of mirage, and many others, they were all extremely high grade 2 true meanings. These were also considered fundamental laws of the world. A world? Without the law of space, what was it? Without the law of mirage? Without the law of annihilation? In that case, this world would be incomplete and incomplete. These fundamental laws were very hard to overcome. One could rely on their strength to forcefully isolate them. For example, suppressing a space, cutting a space, sealing a world. All of these were direct attacks that could suppress the world. But this cloth bag actually prevented the ethereal extent from reflecting the world. This was no longer a case of brute force. Instead, it was simply making the laws ineffective. What exactly is the origin of this cloth bag? Donghua Shuang immediately flew over and grabbed it. Just as he was about to untie the cloth bag, he discovered that the surface of the cloth bag was faintly covered with black runes. An unseen force was preventing him from opening the cloth bag. Oh, right, the key. Donghua Shuang came to a realization. Back then, the black rat had even given him a key, an octagonal black talisman. Return. With a thought, Donghua Shuang kept the cloth bag into his storage treasure, following which he had a strange feeling. As the owner of the storage treasure, he could sense that there was an additional object in the storage space. But when he tried to sense it carefully, he could not see anything. This is too mysterious. Many laws are ineffective in front of it. Hua. Traversing through the ethereal extent, Donghua Shuang immediately began his return journey. This time, he was afraid that the native demigod's cultivation base was too high, and he might be able to discover him and even attack him while he was in the ethereal extent. Thus, he only sent a battle chi clone over. Naturally, he did not bring the most important treasure, the key. Without the key, even if the clone were to die, it would be a small matter. The deity world warrior was illusory, and he could escape. But if the key and the treasure were to fall into the hands of the native transcendent, the consequences would be dire. On the crystalline walls of the Black Wind Deity Palace's underground hall, 100-meter-tall door appeared. Wang, a red-robed Donghua Shuang, passed through the door and arrived at the underground hall. Following him, he continued to walk through the ethereal extent and arrived at a completely sealed meditation room in the Black Wind Deity Palace. In this meditation room, there was another figure, the black-robed Donghua Shuang. It was the main body. After the black-robed Donghua Shuang put down the dark green talisman key, he turned around and left through the ethereal extent. Why did the main body leave? Why did he open the cloth bag in the sealed secret room of the Black Wind Deity Palace? It was because he was worried. After discovering that the cloth bag could cause the laws of the ethereal extent to be ineffective, Donghua Shuang felt very uneasy. This was beyond his ability to deal with. As far as he knew, even many deities couldn't do this. Furthermore, Senior Black Wind had created a terrifying existence before his death. This caused Donghua Shuang to be wary of this cloth bag. Open a cloth bag? What would happen? There were many layers of formations in the Black Wind Deity Palace, enough to suppress all sorts of variables. If he let his chi avatar handle everything here, even if the avatar was destroyed, it would only take 2 to 3 years for it to recover. But with the main body here, if it was destroyed, he would lose his life. Let's begin. I want to see what's hidden in the cloth bag that Senior Black Wind left behind. The red-robed Donghua Shuang moved his mind. Although his consciousness could not see, he still forcefully threw out the strange object from his storage space. The cloth bag landed in the sealed meditation room. Following that, he took the octagonal dark green talisman key and walked to the side of the cloth bag. As he approached, dark green runes immediately appeared on the surface of the cloth bag. Wang, the dark green runes circulated, and the octagonal dark green talisman key also began to emit light. The two lights intertwined, and the runes on the talisman key flew out, completely embedding with the runes on the cloth bag. Without a sound, this layer of dark green runes completely dissipated, and the talisman key also completely cracked. All right, it's open. Donghua Shuang was a little nervous. He walked to the front of the cloth bag and carefully untied the knot on the cloth bag. Asterisk, asterisk. Chapter 234. Opening the pouch, Donghua Shuang looked inside. There were only 2 items in the pouch, a dark gold wristband and a crystal ball. The dark gold wristband glowed faintly, making it look extraordinary. As for the crystal ball, it was relatively ordinary. That's all. Retrieving the two items, he placed them on the ground. Taking a closer look, the pouch was completely empty. There was nothing else inside. Wong! The crystal ball on the ground suddenly emitted a bright light. This caused Donghua Shuiying to be shocked as he turned his head to take a look. The light from the crystal ball formed a human silhouette. It was an old man with long black hair. His eyes were cold and domineering. "I'm Black Wind," the old man with long black hair said coldly. "Senior Black Wind?" Donghua Shuiying's heart thumped. He knew that this was an image left in the crystal ball. The real ancestor Black Wind had died a long time ago. Looking at the image, this ancestor Black Wind should be an extremely domineering and ruthless person. Who would have thought that the strongest demigod in the past million years would have such a demeanor? Ancestor Black Wind was invincible in the past. In order to become a demigod, he did something crazy and increased his strength once again. Hence, this ancestor Black Wind's strength had increased to a terrifying level. He had far surpassed the demigods of this era and could be said to be the strongest demigod in the past million years. To be able to receive this message of mine, your strength should be close to mine. The old man with long black hair said coldly, "You should be the strongest among the Xia people of this era." Donghua Shuiying mumbled to himself. Close? He was still far from that level. He would not be able to defeat the Five Shadows and the Black Rat if he fought them head-on. He would also not be able to break through the frightening spirit designs at the back. He had only succeeded by walking within the Mirage Realm. As the strongest demigod among the Xia people of this era, you have the ability to shoulder the responsibility for the Xia people. Ancestor Black Wind said coldly, "I'm not asking you to go now. However, you can wait until the end of your lifespan before you take on this responsibility." Responsibility? Donghua Shuiying was puzzled. You may be very confused, and you may not understand. Ancestor Black Wind said coldly, "It's also possible that your generation's infernal palace lord has already told you this secret. No matter what, I will tell you this secret first." Donghua Shuiying listened attentively. Patriarch Black Wind was involved in many secrets that even Palace Lord Chun refused to divulge. The operation of the world is full of many unknowns. Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with a strange luster, as though he was saying something unrelated. From the moment a world is born, life is born. This is a very normal situation. According to the law, after a long period of time, the world would gradually age and even collapse. The Xia people, the transcendent natives, and the Beast clan will all be annihilated. After the great calamity, the Xia people's world will give birth to a new world of mortals, reproducing life. Perhaps there will still be humans, but they will no longer be our Xia people. However, for a world to gradually age and even collapse, it can be considered a complete reincarnation. Patriarch Black Wind said, "Sometimes a world will collapse prematurely due to unexpected circumstances." Donghua Shuiying nodded. Right? For example, those small and large transcendent worlds, if their origin stone mines were excavated excessively, the transcendent world would collapse prematurely. Similarly, the more stable, larger, and more perfect mortal world could also collapse prematurely. However, the mortal world was too stable. It was very difficult for it to collapse prematurely. The mortal world is very stable. Under normal circumstances, it would be able to recover. Patriarch Black Wind frowned. In the year 56005 of the Donghua calendar, something that could cause the destruction of our Xia people's world happened. Year 56005 of the Donghua calendar, Donghua Shuiying immediately calculated in his heart. This was something that happened 1,000,000 years ago. The Donghua Emperor was one of the ancestors of the Xia people who became a deity. It could cause the destruction of the mortal world. 1,000,000 years ago, what exactly happened? It was noon, a seemingly ordinary day. Suddenly, a fiery red light descended from the sky. This fiery red light penetrated through the entire material world and all the barriers of the mortal world, falling into our Xia people's world. Patriarch Black Wind said, when it fell, the surrounding area of 100,000 kilometers was turned into ruins. All living beings were wiped out. In fact, 2 of our Xia people's transcendents died. One of them was even a demigod. Dongwu Shui Ying's heart trembled when he heard this. The might of the fall had affected a radius of 100,000 kilometers. If a demigod wanted to, his attack would be able to cover a radius of 500 kilometers. However, in a normal battle, the might of the attack would be condensed and not scattered. Thus, the radius of the battle would not be too large. Normally, a demigod of the Xia people's attack would affect a radius of tens of kilometers. The greater the radius of the attack, the harder it would be to transmit. A mere fall could affect a radius of 100,000 kilometers. This was even more terrifying than a deity. This is nothing, Patriarch Black Wind said. After it fell, a group of otherworldly guests arrived. Groups of reincarnators from the Temporal Temple also rushed over. According to the rumors, these otherworldly guests and reincarnators from the Temporal Temple are the true peak demigods. Most of them are comparable to me in strength. Some of them are even stronger than me. Dongbo Shui Ying's expression changed when he heard this. Even stronger than Patriarch Blackwind and otherworldly guests, one must know that the mortal world was very stable. It was very difficult for life forms from the mortal world to enter. For example, the dark abyss would occasionally form a passageway. There was no pattern to it. At most, some demons would occasionally enter. If otherworldly guests wanted to enter, there was only one way: to ask the Temporal Temple to send them to a mortal world. Sending goods in and sending people in were 2 different things. The price was much higher. That fiery red light fell. So many experts rushed over. You guessed it. Yes, it's that fiery red light that fell. Patriarch Black Wind said, the deity world and even the dark abyss have sent their demigods over. There are even reincarnators from the Temporal Temple. For the sake of that fiery red stream of light, they had come in batches, but they had died in batches. Very, very few had survived. Not even 1 out of 10 survived. At that time, our Xia clan was trembling with fear as we watched everything unfold. Only 2 demigods went in to investigate, but they never returned. During that period of time, our Xia clan was like a fish in a pond that was caught in a calamity and suffered greatly. There was no other way. They were sent by the great powers of the deity world and the dark abyss. They were all peak demigods. Because they suffered too many casualties and the price of sending experts over was too high, these otherworldly guests became fewer and fewer. Patriarch Blackwind said, but every few tens of thousands of years, there would still be a batch of otherworldly guests. Firstly, as long as they came out alive, they would be able to bring some treasures with them. Secondly, the great powers of the deity world and the dark abyss still desired to obtain the fallen treasure. This fallen treasure is a mountain, Patriarch Blackwind said. According to our interactions with the otherworldly guests and the reincarnators of the Temporal Temple, this mountain is called the Crimson Rock Mountain. It is also the source of the threat that could destroy our mortal world. Chapter 235. Crimson Rock Mountain is 100,000 li deep beneath the surface of the Xia people's world. It's very special. Ancestor Black Wind frowned, his eyes filled with reminiscence. It's as if all the natural laws of the world are ineffective before it. In terms of time and space, it's transcendent. It's like a tiny speck, smaller than a grain of sand. But the closer you get to it, the bigger it gets. It's so big that it seems boundless. You can't use space to describe how big or small it is. In terms of time, it's even more mysterious. Only those who enter it know how terrifying it is. Only then do you understand that if anything happens to it, it could easily destroy the entire Xia people's world. Dongwu Shuang was puzzled. Transcending time and space? Even its size couldn't be described? What was this thing? Foolish infernal palace lord. He didn't understand the threat that the Xia people faced. I requested to bring a deity weapon into Crimson Rock Mountain, but he refused. Ancestor Black Wind raged. If I had a deity weapon, my strength would soar. I would obtain even more in Crimson Rock Mountain. I would even have the chance to become a god. Didn't I leave all the treasures I obtained to the Xia people? I even used my 5 shadows to exchange for a deity weapon, but he still refused. The 5 shadows are 5 deity world warriors. The strongest 2 of them aren't any weaker than the deity world warriors sent down by the ancestors of the Xia people. Damn it. Stupid. Short-sighted. Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with bloodlust and anger. Later on, I conducted experiments in a major transcendental world. From the matter extracted from the corpse of an unknown creature, I managed to nurture a special life form. As that special life form matured, its strength rapidly increased. Although I couldn't bear to destroy it, I still took action. But this special life form had been hiding its strength. When I attacked, it could actually suppress me. I fled to the Black Wind Deity Palace, but it chased me out. With the help of the Black Wind Deity Palace, I killed it. I was already nearing the end of my lifespan. After this war, I don't have much time left. But this proves one point. Just the corpse of the life form I obtained is already so terrifying. It could cause a catastrophe for the Xia people. Crimson Rock Mountain is definitely a huge threat. Since the Infernal Palace is so short-sighted, I shall not leave any of my treasures to them. Since you were able to pass the test, I'm afraid that your strength is not much different from mine. Furthermore, with the help of these 7 deity world warriors, you'll be more confident in the Crimson Rock Mountain. Patriarch Black Wind said coldly, "There is no hope for me. I hope that the future generations of the Xia people will continue searching. We can't always hope that Crimson Rock Mountain won't encounter any big problems. We have to take the initiative to obtain more. What a pity. It's a pity that I couldn't open the divine sea and become a deity." Patriarch Black Wind's eyes were filled with a hint of indignation. "I've handed all my treasures to you. Remember, you must be careful with the biological corpses. Don't mess around with them to prevent any more trouble." After saying that, Ancestor Black Wind's figure completely dissipated. The light from the crystal ball also completely disappeared. Dongbo Shueting looked at everything. So that was how it was. The reason for the conflict between Ancestor Black Wind and that generation's Infernal Palace Master was actually because of a divine artifact. Truthfully speaking, Dongbo Shueing was more inclined towards the Infernal Palace Master's side. That was because there were too few deity weapons. Every single deity weapon had been painstakingly passed down by the ancestors of the Xia clan. Crimson Rock Mountain was simply too dangerous. The superpowers from the deity world and the Dark Abyss had sent several peak demigods over, yet they had all died in batches. Not even 1 out of 10 had survived. One had to know that most of them were on par with Ancestor Blackwind. Some were even stronger than him. Clearly, Crimson Rock Mountain was too dangerous. If one were to bring a divine artifact in and die, the divine artifact would be lost in Crimson Rock Mountain. Actually, what Ancestor Blackwind said about the destruction of the Xia people's world was just an alarmist. Dongbo Shueing thought to himself, after all, the deity world and Dark Abyss had sent so many peak demigod experts in, yet they were unable to truly subdue this Crimson Rock Mountain. Do you think it's so easy to solve this problem? No matter how much Ancestor Blackwind said, he still wanted to bring the divine artifact in and search for the opportunity to become a deity. The Infernal Palace was definitely considering things from the perspective of the Xia people. Losing a divine artifact this time, losing another one the next time. If they were to act recklessly, the strength of the Xia people would continuously weaken. Dongbo Shueing kept the crystal ball and picked up the other item in the sack, the dark gold bracelet. The moment he touched it, he easily refined it. Good fellow, what a huge space. Dongbo Shueying's eyes lit up. This must be the biggest storage treasure I've ever obtained. The dark gold bracelet contained a shocking storage space. It was 500 meters in length, width, and height. Inside, there was a huge pile of gray and unassuming stones. They were origin stones. 1. 6 million kilograms of origin stones? Dongbua Shui Ying confirmed it with a single check. He could not help but be overjoyed. It seems like Ancestor Black Wind had also plundered the origin stones from that large-scale, transcendent world. Moreover, Ancestor Black Wind had probably cultivated to the peak, so he did not expend much of the origin stones. He actually left so many for me, including the 8 million kilograms I obtained. That's a total of 3 for million kilograms. Heavens, this was an extremely shocking number. No matter how many contribution points the demigods of the Xia people had, the Infernal Palace would only exchange for 5 million kilograms. They were not willing to give any more. If one wanted more, they could exchange with other demigods and dig for more in large-scale, transcendent worlds. With more than 3 million kilograms of origin stones in hand, one must know how much the Xia people had dug. Moreover, most of them had been used up by the Transcendents. Hence, Dongbua Shui Ying suspected that he was the Transcendent with the most origin stones. Ancestor Black Wind's treasures are indeed extraordinary. Dongbua Shui Ying saw a few other miscellaneous treasures. These were not worth much. Talismans. There was also a pile of talismans. The most eye-catching among them were 7 deity world warrior talismans. The materials used were obviously different. The rest were all refiner talismans. There were many refiner organisms in the Black Wind Deity Palace. Dongbua Shui Ying could guess that the large amount of transcendent materials used by the Black Dragon were probably obtained from the Crimson Rock Mountain. These 3 refiner organisms' corpses? Dongbua Shui Ying looked at them in shock. His heart tightened. There were 3 unique corpses floating in the storage space. The tallest was a mutated beast with 4 hooves that was over 100 meters long. Its entire body was covered with long hair. The hair covered the entire corpse, and even its head could not be seen clearly. The smallest corpse was only 3 meters tall. It was in the shape of a human, and its body was naturally covered with scales. There was even hair on its head, and there were a total of 12 curved horns on its head. The last refiner corpse was 6 meters tall. It was also in the shape of a human, but it had a pair of inverted joints and 6 curved horns on its head. Their auras were extremely terrifying. Even through the storage space, Dongbua Shui Ying's heart tightened. His legs could not help but turn soft. One must know that his current strength was quite high. Even if he were to face a deity, he would not feel this way. Could it be that they were stronger than gods when they were alive? Dongbua Shui Ying thought about how the Black Wind ancestor had almost caused a catastrophe because he had taken some of the materials from the refiner organisms' corpses to experiment on. Before I have absolute strength and confidence, I will not give these 3 refiner organisms' corpses to anyone. I will keep them for the time being to prevent those transcendent wizards from experimenting on them. Transcendent wizards loved to experiment on their bloodlines and souls. How many of them would be able to resist experimenting on the refiner organisms' corpses? After inspecting the treasures left behind by the Black Wind ancestor, Dongbua Shui Ying immediately started to refine the talismans. As for the so-called Crimson Rock Mountain, he was not interested in it at all. With the strength of the Black Wind ancestor, or even those stronger than the Black Wind ancestor, if they were to enter in batches, it would be difficult for even 1 out of 10 of them to survive. Would Dongbua Shui Ying be tired of living? Perhaps when he was nearing the end of his lifespan, he would go in and take the risk. Before this, Dongbua Shui Ying did not have the slightest intention of doing so. Perhaps the Black Wind ancestor had gone crazy because he was nearing the end of his lifespan? If the Black Wind ancestor had only lived for 200 or 300 years, he would not have taken a risk either. Rumble, the sealed door of the isolation chamber opened automatically. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. One after another, figures as fast as phantoms appeared. They were the black rat that was half the height of a human, the gold man with a vigorous aura, the cold and indifferent child, the incomparably seductive and beautiful woman, the handsome red-haired youth, the gray-robed man, and the illusory ape formed by the white fog. The 7 deity soldiers were extremely respectful and excited. "Greetings, Master." Chapter 236. The seven of them did not expect to be freed so soon. After all, it was still dangerous to go to a major transcendent world to retrieve treasures. Demigod natives were not to be trifled with. Give me a brief description of your strength. Donghua Shuiying looked at the seven in front of him and could not suppress the excitement in his heart. 7 deity world warriors. This was an extremely tyrannical and terrifying combat strength. Not including the true meaning of mirage, the weakest white fog ape was comparable to him. The other 6 were much stronger than him. Master, my name is Mo. The black rat said, my first master gave me this name. I am the leader of the 5 shadows, Gold Devil. The gold man's voice was powerful. I am ranked second among the 5 shadows, Holy Child. The calm and indifferent child's eyes were still filled with coldness and boundless darkness. I am ranked third among the 5 shadows, Gentle Beauty. The enchanting woman smiled slightly. In terms of appearance, this woman had reached the pinnacle of perfection in Donghua Shuiying's eyes. Her appearance and figure were all perfect. Every smile and frown could move one's soul. However, compared to his Jingxiu, there was still a slight difference. Jingxiu's appearance might be slightly weaker than this enchanting woman's, but Jingxiu had a feeling. This feeling could be called human nature. Deity world warriors also had spirituality, but they were so perfect that they did not seem like humans. I am ranked 4th battle general, the red-haired handsome youth said in high spirits. Master, if you have any enemies to deal with, let me handle them. I am ranked 5th blade master. The gray-robed man did not say much. The last white fog ape said, I am called Wu Lei. I am the weakest among the 7. The gold man continued, in terms of strength, Water Rat and Second Brother are close to me. I am the strongest when it comes to frontal attacks. Water Rat is best at protecting people. Second Brother is more balanced. He is second only to Water Rat when it comes to protecting people. In terms of attack, he is second only to me. The 3 of us are close to the limit of deity world warriors under the restrictions of the mortal world's laws. Donghua Shuiying was overjoyed when he heard this. 3 deity world warriors that were close to the limit? Third Brother is good at charm and assassination. Number 4 and number 5 are attacking from the front. The gold man said, we, the 5 shadows, were refined by the same expert from the celestial realm. The material used was the celestial realm shadow wood, so the 5 of us were born with the ability to enter the shadow dimension. To us, the shadow dimension is as simple as breathing. Even if we were to live in the shadow dimension forever, it would still be effortless. Thus, we are collectively known as the 5 shadows. Walking through the shadow dimension, Donghua Shuiying's eyes lit up. To be able to live in a shadow space forever, this was not inferior to grasping the first stage of the true meaning of shadow space. The 5 of them were definitely experts in assassination. Of course, compared to Donghua Shuiying, who was walking the mirage, there was still a huge gap between them. Hurry up and clean up the Black Wind Deity Palace. Take whatever you can. Donghua Shuiying instructed. We'll meet up in the main hall later. Yes. The 7 deity warriors bowed. After a while, at the entrance of the Black Wind Deity Palace, the red-robed Donghua Shuiying walked out. Behind him were 7 deity warriors and 12 refiner organisms. Master, in front of Donghua Shuiying was a huge black dragon. The black dragon's body was huge, and it could only obediently extend its head in front of Donghua Shuiying. At the same time, it lowered its head obediently. Its 2 huge golden eyes were looking at Donghua Shuiying excitedly. You are too formidable. I never expected that I would be able to regain my freedom so quickly. The black dragon, can finally leave this place. You can't leave yet, Donghua Shuiying said. The black dragon's 2 huge golden eyes immediately widened. I have already obtained the treasures of the Black Wind Deity Palace. I don't wish to reveal it for the time being and let the entire world know about it. Donghua Shuiying said. Thus, you and the refiner organisms behind, you should temporarily stay in the Black Wind Abyss. Continue to guard this place as per usual and confuse the others. I can't, Master. The Black Dragon roared anxiously. I have waited for this day for far too long. Why can the 7 of them leave, but I can't? Could it be that I, the old dragon, am the weakest? Even if I can't compare to the 7 of them, I am still stronger than the 12 Saint rank refiner organisms. Dongbua Shui Ying laughed. This has nothing to do with strength. It's just that you, the Black Dragon, are too famous. Everyone knows that there's a black dragon standing guard outside the Black Wind Divine Palace. If you suddenly disappear, it will definitely attract attention. Your importance is higher than all of them. Therefore, anyone else can leave, but you must stay here for the time being. Oh. The Black Dragon lowered his head. He understood that if he were to leave, the secret of the Black Wind Deity Palace's treasures would be made public. Although there was nothing wrong with making it public, Dongbua Shuing did not wish to make it public with the demon general spying on them. Master, how long do I have to wait? The Black Dragon looked at Dongbua Shuing. His golden eyes were filled with anticipation. He really wanted to leave this place. If it's short, tens of years. If it's long, hundreds of years. Dongbua Shuing said. All right. The Black Dragon replied obediently. He then turned his head and glanced at the refiner organisms beside him. These were the refiner organisms that had been guarding the Black Wind Abyss with him all these years. Did you hear that? Guard the Black Wind Abyss with me. This is Master's order. Dongbua Shuing smiled and shook his head. He then waved his hand. The 7 deity warriors and 12 refiner organisms behind him were all stored away. This was also one of the reasons why Dongbua Shuing was envious of these deity warriors. Each of them had an almost eternal lifespan and could even store items in their storage space. Xiao! In an instant, he turned into a ray of light and appeared on top of Snowrock Mountain 100 miles away. Standing high up in the sky above Snowrock Mountain, the sky was dark. It was already evening. Dongbua Shuing looked into the distance. When he became a transcendent, his transcendent physique allowed him to clearly see a small earthworm 100 miles away. Now that his strength had increased, although the Battle Chi clone form from Transcendent Battle Chi did not have a qualitative improvement in terms of vision, it was still much better than when he had just become a transcendent. However, it was still much better than when he had just become a transcendent. He could even see some cities that were 10,000 miles away, just that they were a little blurry. Within a 10,000-mile radius, as far as his eyes could see, there were countless mountain villages and small towns, as well as many cities. Within the cities, there were faint lights and a dense flow of people. Countless mortals lead different kinds of lives. Some work hard to make a living, while others indulge in sensual pleasures. Dongbua Shuing said softly. However, there are still those damned evil demons hiding behind them, especially the evil demon generals. The evil demon generals are currently in hibernation and have yet to erupt. The moment they make a move, the number of mortals who will be killed or injured will be in the hundreds of millions. Evil demon generals. To them, the mortal world was a land of dreams. The human souls in the material world were a great supplement to them. Right now, they are all in hibernation, devouring the human souls offered by the weak evil demons. The more they eat, the more beneficial it is to them. Their strength is also gradually improving. Either they become demonic gods, or too many weak evil demons have died. Hence, not many human souls have been contributed. When that time comes, I'm afraid the evil demon generals will bare their fangs. They will wantonly devour the human souls. I'm afraid they can easily annihilate all the humans in a county. One-on-one, the demigods of the Xia people will not be able to kill them. Only the strongest demigods of the Xia people can join forces and kill one of them. With the strength of the Xia people, we might be able to annihilate them. But how many people will die? Dongbua Shuing shook his head. Even demigods would probably fall. As for the mortals, it was simply unimaginable. Next, I have to find these evil demon generals. Once I find them, I'll surround and kill them. Dongbo Shui Ying thought to himself. However, I have to verify if they will notice me when I walk in the Mirage Realm. Amen. I'll set off tomorrow. I'll first look for faction head Si Kongyang and vice faction head Chao to verify. That night, Dongbo Shui Ying was having dinner with his family. Dongbo Shui Ying did not intend to tell his family about the deity warriors. There was no benefit in telling them. However, he had already decided on how to distribute the 7 deity warriors. The chopsticks in Jing Qiu's hand fell to the ground. Dongbo Shui Ying's expression changed. A piece of news came. Puyang Bo, dead in battle, dead in Spring Sun City. Senior Puyang. Jing Qiu could not believe it. Puyang. Dongbo Shui Ying's face was pale, and his heart was in his throat. The group of transcendents from the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world had not died in the past 20 years. But now, the 5 transcendent worlds' demon lairs had been eradicated, and some had taken the initiative to escape. Just when the transcendents of the Xia clan were celebrating and celebrating. How long had it been? Just a month. The new year had just ended, and Puyang Bo had already died in battle. Puyang Bo had a good relationship with Dongbo Shui Ying in Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. His ranking there had always been last. It was only after Dongbo Shui Ying was reprimanded by faction head Si Kongyang that Dongbo Shui Ying was demoted to last place, and Puyang Bo was second last. He, Puyang Bo, Yufeng, and Zhang Peng. The 4 of them were the last 4. He was rather pitiful during those 10 years, and the elders of the Xia people were very disappointed in Dongbo Shui Ying. At that time, some of his fellow disciples in Scarlet Cloud Mountain world started to keep their distance from Dongbo Shui Ying. However, Puyang Bo, Yufeng, and Zhang Peng did not. They had always treated Dongbo Shui Ying like a brother. Later on, Jing Qiu and Yuan Qing also joined them. Puyang, my brother. Dongbo Shui Ying's eyes were filled with tears. How did this happen? The demon nests had already been eradicated. Although they knew that there would still be transcendents dying in the future, the threat had already been greatly reduced. Furthermore, Puyang was most proficient in teleportation. He could even teleport during battle. But he still died? He was still young. After so many years of hard work, he finally managed to woo a female transcendent. Did he die just like that? Senior brother Puyang. Jing Qiu looked at Dongbo Shui Ying beside her. In the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, she was the closest to Dongbo Shui Ying. Even though she had joined the sect late, her relationship with Puyang Bo was still very good. After being together for so many years, how could she not be sad when senior brother Puyang died? However, she understood that Dongbo Shui Ying and Puyang Bo's relationship was even closer. Back then, they were the last few transcendents, but they were truly like brothers. Father, mother. Dongbo Shui Ying stood up and controlled his sorrowful emotions. Let's go out for a while. After saying that, Dongbo Shui Ying and Jing Qiu immediately left the dining hall. Who? The 2 of them rapidly soared into the sky. Let's go to Spring Sun City. Dongbo Shui Ying waved his hand. Sila, space itself was forcefully torn apart. Holding on to Jing Qiu's hand, he directly flew into the tear in space. Chapter 237. Spring Sun City was a city in the western part of the continent, in the Bright Sand Province. Spring Sun City was built on an oasis, and around it was a boundless desert. In fact, the entire Bright Sand Province was a province on top of a desert. Its land area was much larger than a normal province, and the population was sparse. It was normal for there to be no signs of human habitation within thousands of kilometers. Sila, in the sky above Spring Sun City, a pitch-black spatial crack appeared, and a young man and woman flew out of it, arriving in the sky above Spring Sun City. Looking down, using the true meaning of star to sense the surrounding space, the area within 100 kilometers around him was an absolute perception domain. Spring Sun City was just a small city similar to Waterite's town, so the perception domain could easily cover it. Over there, Dongbo Shui Ying brought Jing Qiu, and with a schwa, they teleported into the city. Beside a street in the city, There was a huge crater over 100 meters wide. The area around the crater had already been sealed off, forbidding mortals from approaching. Snow Eagle. There were already two figures standing beside the crater. One was the current #1 expert, Mountain Lord He, and the other was the other demigod of the black-white deity mountain, ghost deity knight Feng Dong. Feng Dong's entire body emitted a dark and gloomy aura. This person could be considered one of the more ordinary demigods, and his most famous incident was when he was defeated by the Saint Realm Transcendent Chi Bai. Mountain Lord He, Vice Mountain Lord Feng, Dongbua Shuiying, and Jing Qiu both greeted. You and that brat Pu Yang were fellow disciples in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, right? Mountain Lord He sighed. I didn't think that I would be so happy when you got rid of those demon nests before the new year. It's only been a month, but that brat Pu Yang actually died in battle. He was an expert in teleportation. Could it be that one of those powerful rank 5 demons instantly killed Pu Yang in one move? How ruthless! Feng Dong said coldly. Instantly killed, not even leaving behind Pu Yang Bo's weapons or treasures. Dongbua Shuiying and Jing Qiu stood in front of the crater, looking at the 100-meter-wide crater Pu Yang. Dongbua Shuiying's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said in a low voice, "These damned demons. How many?" Each and every one of them were good friends. Some of them had only drunk with him a few times, while some of them had much deeper friendships. When they were at Scarlet Cloud Mountain, they had truly interacted with each other day and night, day after day, year after year, more than 20 years. After staying in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain for such a long time, even if they were family, how many of them would be able to stay together almost every day for more than 20 years? Dongbua Shuiying had long treated Yufeng, Pu Yang Bo, and Zhang Peng as his good brothers. There was also the youngest, Yuan Qing. Pu Yang, I will avenge you. Tomorrow, I will go look for the demon general. Dongbua Shuiying tried his best to suppress his emotions. His transcendent friends had died in battle. He had experienced this many times over the years. However, his heart still ached. Other than Dongbua Shuiying and the rest who came to pay their respects, Si Kong Yang, Gong Yu, and Chi Qiu Bai also rushed over. They were teachers in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. The one who had taught Pu Yang Bo before, Si Kong Yang, had always hated Pu Yang Bo for failing to meet his expectations. However, at this moment, he could only sigh and suppress the anger in his heart. This group of young transcendents that he had taught, he might not be satisfied with them, but that was only in terms of cultivation. After interacting with them for a long time, these young transcendents were like his sons and nephews. Pu Yang Bo's death caused Si Kong Yang to feel terrible as well. However, they suppressed this anger in their hearts. They understood the war with the demons and the destruction of the demons' nest was only to make the Xia people's transcendents' lives easier. However, this did not mean that the Xia people's transcendents would not die. Furthermore, the most terrifying thing was that the 5 demon generals were still alive. They were all lying in ambush. If they did not get rid of the demon generals, this war would not end. The next morning, Dongbua Shuiying left Snowrock Castle alone. Although he wanted to find the demon generals immediately, before that, he had to confirm how powerful his true meaning of mirage was in terms of scouting. Would he be discovered instead? Sila, first, he tore open a crack in space and headed towards the great snowy plains in the north. After that, he walked into the mirage and flew for thousands of miles, nearing the Water Taoist faction. Within the mirage, a black-robed Dongbua Shuiying carefully examined his surroundings. The mirage reflected reality, so there was also a Water Taoist faction within the mirage. Just like in the real world, the Water Taoist faction within the mirage also had weapons, treasures, and a few figures. As Dongbua Shuiying gradually approached, the reflection of the Water Taoist faction also increased. First, it enveloped Vice Faction Head Chao. Vice Faction Head Chao. Dongbua Shuiying immediately saw Vice Faction Head Chao. Vice Faction Head Chao was still fishing. Alone, barefooted, he was fishing by the lake. Although the entire snowy plains was cold all year round, The temperature within the water Taoist faction was controllable. There were places where birds sang and flowers bloomed. There's no movement. Dongbo Shui Ying observed carefully. Vice faction head Chao was fishing leisurely with his eyes closed. His facial muscles and expression did not show any signs of movement. You should not have noticed Dongbo Shui Ying. Let's look for faction head Si Kongyang. Faction head Si Kongyang should be here. At the very least, he should have a battle chi clone here. Dongbo Shui Ying continued advancing. His personal detection range was only 1,000 miles. Strictly speaking, it was 1,000 miles in diameter. It was only 500 miles away from him. As he got closer, the range of the water Taoist faction became larger and larger. Finally, on a mountain peak within the water Taoist faction, Si Kongyang sat cross-legged. His entire body was as dazzling as the sun. According to the records of the demigod list, there were a total of 4 demigods who had condensed a true deity heart in the entire Xia people's world. Among the humans, there were only 2. One was the faction head of the water Taoist faction, Si Kongyang. The other was the black-white deity mountain's mountain lord He. Thus, in Dongbo Shui Ying's test, Si Kongyang and Mountain Lord He were the 2 most important figures. The 2 of them had condensed a true deity heart. In terms of realm, the strongest of the 5 demon generals might only be on par with them. Amen. Dongbo Shui Ying was also carefully observing Si Kongyang's every movement, his facial muscles and expression, as well as the fluctuations of his aura. There's no change at all. Dongbo Shui Ying was shocked and pleasantly surprised. Faction head Si Kongyang is at least a few hundred kilometers away. He can't sense me in the mirage. Dongbo Shui Ying understood after thinking about it. A few hundred kilometers away. Thus, he could only rely on the laws of profound mysteries he grasped to sense the world, to sense Dongbo Shui Ying. As for Dongbo Shui Ying, he was in the mirage, and there was no intense battle going on. To rely on one's own laws of profound mysteries to sense a life form within the mirage was an extremely difficult task. If one could be sensed so easily, experts who grasped hold of the mirage would not be called the most terrifying assassins. Unless the difference in realm was too great, or if the other party's laws of profound mysteries were able to suppress the mirage, it would be very difficult for others to discover the assassin hiding within the mirage before he acted. As expected of the true meaning ranked last amongst all grade 2 true meanings. Dongbo Shui Ying sighed inwardly. Its power was indeed weak, not even comparable to a grade 3 true meaning. But in other aspects, it was heaven-defying. There was a saying in the deity world that one would rather fight other grade 2 true meaning experts than those who grasped hold of the true meaning of mirage. This kind of expert who hid within the mirage was too sinister and was most suited to be an assassin. Faction head Si Kongyang's realm is already very high. I'm afraid that most of the 5 demon generals can't even compare to him. Dongbo Shui Ying thought, but before that, I'll have to find Mountain Lord He. He's a number 1 expert under the heavens. Xiao, walking within the mirage, he flew at high speed and silently left. Within the Water Taoist faction, Chao Qing and Si Kongyang did not sense him. Chapter 238. The Black-White Deity Mountain was the superpower of the Xia clan with the most mages. It was also the most formidable in the research of mages. Even though it controlled 6 provinces in the central region, in reality, the other provinces also had transcendent mages joining them. Mountain Lord, he was currently the strongest mage in the world. Within the mirage, Dongbo Shui Ying was rapidly approaching the black-white deity mountain. Very quickly, he had enveloped the entire mountain. Found him. Dongbo Shui Ying immediately discovered Mountain Lord He. Mountain Lord He was currently sitting cross-legged on one of the peaks of the black-white deity mountain. Beside him were 2 strange black and white crescent moons floating. At the same time, there were countless runes appearing on these 2 crescent moons. In an instant, the dense runes formed a large number of 3-dimensional patterns, giving one a headache just looking at them. These two crescent moons were the strongest divine weapon of the black-white deity mountain, black-white moon wheel. Although it did not have the qualifications to be ranked number one among all the divine weapons of the Xia people, in Mountain Lord He's hands, the power it could display was much stronger than any other demigod. Mountain Lord He slightly frowned and turned his head to look in the direction of Dongbua Shuang. He discovered me. Dongbua Shuang was startled. Without a doubt, he had been discovered. Mountain Lord He's gaze seemed to pierce through the void. He was staring in his direction. However, Mountain Lord He's expression seems a little suspicious. He probably didn't discover me. Let's go. After verifying his true meaning of mirage, Dongbua Shuang immediately left. He did not want to tell anyone about the matter of finding the demon generals and the methods of the true meaning of mirage. In the future, he would only tell Palace Lord Chen first. After all, only Palace Lord Chen was absolutely trustworthy. As for the other transcendents, Mountain Lord He and the rest were also trustworthy. They were powerful, and the Xia people also provided them with resources. There was no need for them to betray and rely on the demonic faction. Thus, Mountain Lord He, Si Kong Yang, and the others were able to participate in many secretive matters. However, since there was no need, Eastern Europe's Snow Eagle would not tell them. Who? Mountain Lord He furrowed his brows. There seemed to be an expert hiding a few hundred li away. What a brilliant technique. Was it a spell? Or was he hiding with the help of a divine artifact? Even my senses are blurry. There were many possibilities. Mountain Lord, he could only vaguely sense it. Is this the work of a demon general? Or was it the demonic faction or the sorcerer palace? Or was it the visitor from another world? That outsider is quite obedient in my Xia people's world. There's no need for him to spy on me. Mountain Lord, he suddenly had many thoughts. After Dongbua Shuang left, he was deep in thought. The demigods of our Xia people condensed a true deity heart, our faction head Si Kong Yang and Mountain Lord He. Among the two of them, Temple Master Si Kong did not notice me. But Mountain Lord, he discovered it. Dongbua Shuang thought, perhaps it has something to do with their true deity hearts. Faction head Si Kong seems to have an extremely tyrannical fire-type offensive technique, while Mountain Lord, he leans towards domain-type techniques. One is more tyrannical, while the other leans towards domain-type techniques. Perhaps it is because of this that Mountain Lord, he was able to sense me. Dongbua Shuang had his own conclusion. With such power, I can start investigating. Early in the morning, they went to the Water Taoist faction and the Black-White Deity Mountain respectively. After returning, Dongbua Shuang accompanied his family for breakfast. I'm preparing to go into closed-door cultivation. Dongbua Shuang directly told his family at the dining table, the matter of me going into closed-door cultivation must not be leaked out. Oh, all right. Everyone at the table nodded. From their point of view, there was nothing strange about a transcendent expert doing anything. Snow Eagle, how long will you be in closed-door cultivation? Mother Mo Yanyu asked. About 10 years. I will come out once every year. Dongbua Shuang replied. So long? You should pay attention to your cultivation. Don't overexert yourself. Mo Yanyu advised. Don't talk so much. You aren't even a legend mage. Yet you want to guide your son in his cultivation? Dongbua Lai laughed. So what if I guide him? Can't I? Mo Yanyu glared at him, causing Dongbua Lai to shrink back. Dongbua Shuang smiled. As his parents grew older, their temperaments became more cheerful. Both of them were already over 100 years old. Jingxiu looked at Dongbua Shuang from the side. She did not believe in the excuse of going into closed-door cultivation. 10 years? Previously, Dongbua Shuang would only go into closed-door cultivation for 10 days to half a month. Even if he cultivated for a long period of time, was there a need to come out only once a year? Senior brother Snow Eagle, what are you planning to do? Jingxiu smiled and transmitted her voice using the world energy. Jingxiu. Dongbua Shuang transmitted back. I really can't hide it from you. All right, I don't intend to hide too much from you. It's a very important matter, similar to eradicating a demon nest. Will there be any danger? Jingxiu's heart tightened. Don't worry, I'm only in charge of scouting. Dongbua Shui Ying replied. All right, you'll know soon enough. I estimate that it won't even take 10 years. Asterisk, 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 10 years. Theoretically, that was the maximum amount of time needed. If Dongbua Shui Ying wanted to search for the demon generals in the entire mortal world, he could only use the stupidest and most direct method. A carpet search. He was prepared to search the entire continent. If he couldn't find the 5 demon generals, he would search the entire ocean. According to his estimations, Dongbua Shui Ying flew at high speed while searching. How terrifying was his flying speed? In a single day, after deducting the time for rest, he would be able to fly 5 to 6 times around the continent of the Xia people's world. However, he could only search within a radius of 1,000 li each time. Thus, he would need to fly many times before he could finish searching the entire continent. He estimated that he would need 2 to 3 years. Every day, he would fly for 10 hours and rest for 2 hours. The reason why he rested was because of his mental fatigue and the need to devour origin stones. After all, it was indeed very tiring to search every corner of the continent for 10 hours straight. Secondly, Dongbua Shui Ying had more than 3 million origin stones on hand. Naturally, he had to raise his body to the middle stage of the Saint Realm as soon as possible. To do so, he would need to devour 1 million origin stones. His physical body was very strong, and he could absorb the origin stones much faster than his Dantian's Qi Si. However, he could only absorb 1,000 origin stones a day. It would take him an hour to absorb the origin stones every day. According to his estimations, he would be able to finish absorbing the origin stones in 5 years. Let's begin. Dongbua Shui Ying had no worries. Out of the 7 deity warriors, he sent the Black Rat to protect his younger brother, Qing Shi. Seeing his friends die one after another, Dongbua Shui Ying was really afraid. He was afraid that his younger brother would also receive the news of his death. That would be a huge blow to his parents. Thus, the Black Rat, who was the most skilled in defense, was sent to protect his younger brother. The White Fog Ape, Wu Lei, and the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th shadows were all stationed at Snorra Castle. With a few of them around, the castle was impregnable. Even if his parents went out to travel, the 2nd and 3rd shadows would secretly follow them. Jing Xiu had even less to worry about. She had the best deity warrior provided by the Xia people, as well as protective treasures. Furthermore, she was a transcendent sorcerer. Dongbua Shui Ying brought the leader of the 5 shadows and the green armor protector with him. This was a precaution in case any demon general was too strong and could attack him in a mirage. That way, they could be used to kill him. The golden devil of the 5 shadows was extremely strong in terms of offense. They flew at high speed for 300 li underground, day and night. Of course, there were no obstacles in the mirage. The Xia people's world was a mortal world and also a part of the material world. The deeper they went, the stronger the obstacles. Normally, there would be a thick layer of rock 100 li underground. Below that, there would be a layer of magma, and further down, there would be invisible obstacles. 300 li underground, there would even be invisible laws of obstruction. The entire earth was like a single entity being pushed aside. Thus, the treasure Crimson Rock Mountain was able to penetrate the outermost layer of the material world, as well as the outer membrane of the mortal world, and finally penetrate the earth. In the end, it stopped at 100,000 li underground. The fact that it could reach 100,000 li underground in one go showed its might. 300 li underground. The laws of obstruction will begin to appear. It is unlikely that the demon general's battleships are 300 li underground. This was also the reason why Dongbua Shui Ying chose to fly and investigate at a depth of 300 li underground. He investigated the area within 1,000 li, flying as he did so. He could not relax in the slightest. Only at night would he rest for 2 hours. When he rested, he would consume some origin stones, make some food, and relax. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. On this day at noon, within the mirage, Dongbua Shui Ying was still flying at high speed, sticking close to the ground. In the blink of an eye, he was already 100 li away. It was only with such speed that he dared to say that he wanted to investigate the entire Xia people's world. Dong Shui Ying suddenly stopped, a look of astonishment on his face. The mirage reflected reality. On his upper left, there was a huge building. This building was located deep within a mountain, on the surface of a lake of magma. This huge building was even bigger than the Black Wind Deity Palace. Through his investigation, he could see that in one of the torture rooms of this huge building, there was a man chained up. The man's skin was covered with inscriptions, and he seemed to be in a deep sleep. Puyangbo. Dong Shui Ying's eyes widened in disbelief. The person being chained up was Puyangbo, whom the Xia people believed to have died in battle. Chapter 239. Hoo. Puyangbo's breathing was very weak, but as a transcendent, his consciousness was still very clear. Creak. The metal door of the torture chamber was pushed open, and a hunchbacked old man walked in. After entering, the hunchbacked old man started chanting an incantation. Very quickly, the runes on Puyangbo's skin lit up. Black air currents appeared on the surface of these runes, and a black skull could be vaguely seen within the black air currents. Puyangbo couldn't help but let out a cry of pain. Kill me if you have the ability. I will not surrender to you, never. Kill me. Puyangbo cursed as he howled. Great transcendent, how would a mere servant like me dare to kill you? The hunchbacked old man laughed. His voice seemed to be squeezed out from his throat, dry and ear-piercing. I am only following orders. Damn it. Puyangbo howled in pain and cursed. He was a dignified transcendent, but at this moment his entire soul was sealed. He was unable to mobilize a single strand of qi, much less the energy of heaven and earth. Shidong, I'm sorry. I can't accept this, I can't accept this. In Puyangbo's heart, the one who suffered the most was the female transcendent Shidong that he had pursued. Shidong was a female transcendent mage who was even younger than him. It was only after the War of the Fiends began that Shidong cast aside her worries and got together with Puyangbo. The two of them were very loving and happy when they were together. Puyangbo was incomparably proud of himself. He would often show off to his friends, Yufeng, Zhangpeng, and Dong Shuang. But now, I'm finished. When my communication wristband was destroyed, the Xia people probably thought that I was already dead, right? I am a dead person. If I resurrect, I will definitely be suspected. They will never let me go back. Even if I surrender to them, I will only be able to live in the darkness forever. Damn it. Puyangbo felt as though his heart was being gnawed on by insects. At this moment, how is it? Did this kid lower his head? A voice rang out, and a gray-robed man with black mist all over his body walked in. Sir, he didn't lower his head. He's seeking death. The hunchbacked elder said respectfully. He was just an ordinary wizard, but the gray-robed man in front of him was a transcendent. You go out first, the gray-robed man ordered. Yes. The stooped elder left obediently. The gray-robed man casually closed the metal door. Only then did the black fog surrounding his body dissipate, revealing a cold and gloomy face. It was the oldest disciple amongst the group of disciples from the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. He was also the one who Qi Qiubai said had no hope of grasping the true meaning, Sidu Hong. Puyangbo, who was tied up and had his head lowered, suddenly raised his head. His face was ferocious as he looked at Sidu Hong in front of him. He gritted his teeth and said, You're still coming? In just 3 months, you've already come here 3 times. I'd just like to see you in this pitiful state, seeing you gnashing your teeth in madness. I'm even happier. Sidu Hong stood there and sneered. When we were at Scarlet Cloud Mountain, weren't you always going against me? Haha, going against me won't end well. Don't worry, you're the first. In the future, there will be more transcendents coming to accompany you. You will definitely be discovered. The Xia people will definitely not let you off. Puyangbo's eyes were filled with resentment. The more he thought about how more transcendence would be captured by this traitor, the angrier he became. Discovered? Haha, didn't you not discover? Situ Hong's eyes were filled with madness. I will choose carefully and slowly. If I capture one in a few decades, I will capture 10 in a few hundred years. The more I capture, the more credit I will have. You traitor, the Xia people have treated you well, yet you are a traitor and continue to harm other transcendents. Pu Yongbo's voice was hoarse. Mfmf, Chi Bai, Si Kong Yang. How could any of them look up to me? Situ Hong sneered. They have never cared about me. In their eyes, Dongbua Shui Ying is the most important. However, as Chi Bai said, my cultivation is indeed getting slower and slower. In the war with the demons, my strength might even be killed by the demonic avatars of those rank 5 demons. Since that's the case, I might as well rely on the demonic faction. Damn the demon nest. It has already been taken care of by Dongbua, Pu Yongbo angrily said. That's after I rely on them, Situ Hong sneered. Also, don't mention Dongbua Shuiying in front of me. Seeing Dongbua Shuiying getting stronger, Situ Hong's heart was filled with even more hatred. Damn it, Dongbua Shuiying, if you want to eradicate the demon nest, why didn't you do it earlier? Wait for me to rely on them before eradicating them? Pu Yongbo, I advise you to obediently rely on them. What's the use of stubbornly holding on? Situ Hong said, even if I rely on them, I will forever live in the darkness, a life worse than death. Pu Yongbo clenched his teeth. You wanted to work for you? Dream on. So what if I live in the darkness? When the time comes, you can still think of a way to trick your woman, that female transcendent mage called Shidong, into joining us. Won't the two of you be together again? Situ Hong said with a smile. Scram! Pu Yongbo's face turned sinister. You're not allowed to touch Shidong, not allowed. TSK, TSK, TSK. What a loving couple. Just because junior brother Pu Yang is so infatuated with her, since we are fellow disciples, I will help you and sister Shidong. Situ Hong's smile became even more brilliant. You will definitely die, definitely die. Pu Yongbo was incomparably hateful. The demonic faction's punishments are really too weak. Even after 3 months, you still haven't bowed your head. Don't worry, the demonic faction has existed for countless years. Those mages who have comprehended darkness and destruction have figured out many methods of punishment. Situ Hong said, going through all these methods of punishment once would take 100 years. 100 years of punishment, just thinking about it makes me afraid. If you still don't bow your head at that time, don't worry, your body could be experimented on by those crazy mages. Even after your body collapses, your soul can be captured and experimented on. Your body and soul. The demonic faction will not waste a single bit. You will definitely be exposed, and you will definitely die. You won't be happy for long. Pu Yongbo growled, his voice sounding like a curse. No one knows. Besides the high priest and you, no one knows that I am a member of the demonic faction. Situ Hong smiled. It's impossible for me to be exposed. Situ Hong was extremely proud of himself. I don't know why. Junior brother, I'm very, very happy to see you wailing and howling here. Unfortunately, the one being imprisoned here is not Dongbua Shuiying. If it was the most glorious Dongbua Shuiying of our Scarlet Cloud Mountain who is imprisoned here, I would be even happier. At this moment, Situ Hong completely removed his mask. The evil, selfishness, and cruelty in his heart were not concealed at all. In the mirage, the black-clothed youth, Dongbua Shuiying, coldly watched this scene. Chapter 240. Situ Hong? He actually defected to the demonic faction and became a traitor. Dongbua Shuiying's cold gaze swept across the area as he slowly moved forward, wanting to completely envelop the gigantic structure within his detection range. Soon, within his detection range, the gigantic structure looked like a fortress. It was flat, dark red in color, and had 6 sharp edges. It had a diameter of 500 kilometers and a height of 5 kilometers. Such a fortress was comparable to the provincial capital of the Xia people. 500 kilometers in diameter. How big was that? It was much bigger than the Black Wind Deity Palace. Such a large city could easily accommodate a population of over 100 million. Dombo Shui Ying's gaze quickly landed on the strongest existence within the fortress. Inside a blood-colored hall, a figure shrouded in black fog sat at the highest position. "Enter," the black fog figure said. "High Priest." A fog appeared out of nowhere and condensed into a white-robed girl who respectfully bowed. "High Priest." Dombo Shui Ying was shocked. The High Priest was the highest-ranked demigod in the demonic faction. The demonic faction has always been hidden in the shadows. Even now, no one knows who the current High Priest is. I never thought that I would have the opportunity to discover him. That white-robed girl is also extraordinary. I didn't notice her before. She doesn't seem to be a normal life form. Is she a deity warrior? Dombo Shui also looked carefully. However, due to the black fog, he was temporarily unable to see the appearance of the High Priest. "What's the matter?" the black fog figure asked. "Situ Hong is here again," the white-robed girl said. "He has come to tease Pu Yongbo again. This is the third time in the past 3 months. High Priest, I feel that Situ Hong's temperament is unstable. He is not patient and calm enough. I'm afraid that he will ruin the plans of our demonic faction in the future. He is among the transcendents of the Xia people. Who knows when he will be exposed? I'm afraid that the Xia people will tail him and discover some of our secrets." The black fog figure said, "This Situ Hong's temperament is lacking. He won't be able to achieve great things. But don't worry, he only listens to my orders. Every time he comes here, it is through the space array. He knows very little about our demonic faction secrets, so he won't be able to expose anything. Moreover, this Situ Hong was one of the geniuses of the Xia people's Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Through him, they might be able to capture some of the geniuses of the Xia people. You should know how important the plan of the great demon god and the sorcerer god is. It will be a great contribution if we can get rid of the geniuses of the Xia people." "I understand. I'm only here to remind the High Priest," the white-robed girl said. "Go, continue to monitor, and report to me if there's any news," the black fog figure ordered. "Yes." The white-robed girl immediately transformed into mist and dissipated. The black mist surrounding the figure sitting on the throne had completely dissipated, revealing his true appearance. Red robes, red eyebrows. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "Shiyun." Dombo Shui was shocked. He's the High Priest? Shiyun was one of the elders of the Xia people. He hated evil and was wholeheartedly loyal to the Xia people. Therefore, he was highly respected. The palace lordship also valued him greatly. Shiyun even controlled a portion of the infernal palace. Of course, the core areas were controlled by the palace lord. However, one could imagine how much trust Shiyun had. Previously, when Dombo Shui Ying eradicated the demon lair, one of the demigods who supported Dombo Shui Ying was Shiyun. He's actually this generation's High Priest. Dombo Shui Ying did not dare to believe it. However, it was the truth. The black mist surrounding Shiyun was dark magic. Shiyun sat on the throne, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. He was extremely cautious. Normally, he would act as the High Priest. Even when facing a deity warrior, he would hide his identity. Currently, in the entire Xia people's world, no one knew that he was the High Priest. The previous generation's High Priest knew, but that generation's High Priest had long since died of old age. Only when there was no one around, and he was in an extremely safe place, would he remove the dark magic that enveloped his body. Hong, hong, hong. As he cultivated, layers of scales began to appear on the surface of his body. 2 sharp horns began to grow on the top of his head. His aura also became more vigorous. Dark magic could form a demonic body, making it incomparably tyrannical. Who would have thought that the High Priest of a demonic faction was actually Shiyun? Dombo Shui Ying continued to carefully observe other places. Soon, his attention was attracted to another place. It was a sealed secret room deep within the huge fortress. The secret room was extremely large, covering an area of at least half a mile. In the middle of the secret room floated a bronze coffin that was 20 meters long and 6 meters wide. It was shrouded in the aura of dark magic. The bronze coffin was bound by chains. A total of 13 chains extended to every corner of the secret room. Just like that, the 13 chains fixed the bronze coffin in midair. The bronze coffin was completely sealed. However, its interior could still be seen through the mirage. Inside the bronze coffin lay a humanoid figure. The humanoid figure was lying in a pool of liquid. Within the liquid, there were some weeds, bones, and other objects. The humanoid figure was 8 meters tall. His entire body was covered in dark red scales. He was even breathing slowly and deeply. Every breath he took caused the bronze coffin to tremble. Who is he? Donghua Shuang frowned. With such a huge height, he's definitely not human. Is he a native transcendent? Doesn't look like it. Demon? None of the 5 demon generals look like this. Why is he lying here motionless? Donghua Shuang studied it for a while before looking at other places. This fortress was too mysterious. He discovered a deity weapon, as well as a large number of demigod weapons. There were also many that he didn't understand. Some places even had some spatial distortions. Some of the terrifying arrays were probably arranged by some of the powerful transcendent mages in the history of the demonic faction. From his observations, some of the arrays here were even stronger than the ones in the Black Wind Deity Palace. There are also a large number of secret techniques. However, these were all simplified versions. The complete versions were probably hidden in the storage space. Hua. Inside one of the halls of the fortress, there was a lake. Dark red divine power flowed within the lake, surging endlessly. On one of the walls of the hall, there was a huge statue of a head. This huge head had 2 curved horns. Its face was covered in scales, and its face was thin. Its eyes looked like they were carved from blood-red jade. The statue of a demonic god. Furthermore, the pressure emitted by this demonic god statue made Donghua Shuang's heart tremble even though he was separated by the mirage. Great demon god. Shuang immediately confirmed that a mere sculpture of an ordinary demonic god would not be so terrifying. After all, his combat power was much stronger than before. Only the great demonic god worshipped by the demonic faction, which had always been at war with the Temple of the Earth God, could be so powerful. This is the great demon god's devil's well in our Xia people's world. Donghua Shuang's eyes lit up. The devil's well is the most important tool for a deity to spread his faith in the mortal world. The devil's well would only be hidden in the safest place. Even the high priest is here. There are deity weapons, deity warriors, and humanoid creatures in bronze coffins that I can't see through. There are also many other places that I can't see through. Donghua Shuang's eyes were filled with excitement. Other than the legendary demonic faction headquarters, I can't think of any other place that could be so powerful and terrifying. Demonic faction headquarters. This was a legend. For many years, the demonic faction had always been hidden in the darkness. Places like the Water Taoist faction, Black-White Deity Mountain, and even the Infernal Palace all had their own headquarters. Only the demonic faction headquarters had always been a mystery. For countless years, the entire Xia people had been searching for the demonic faction headquarters, but to no avail. If the 5 demon generals were said to have threatened the Xia people for an era, then the demonic faction had threatened the Xia people for countless eras. And today, the mysterious demonic faction headquarters had finally been discovered. It had been discovered by the first transcendent in the history of the Xia people's world who had grasped the true meaning of mirage. The mirage reflected reality. The headquarters of the demonic faction was located in a mortal world, so it was impossible for it to resist the reflection of the mirage. I actually discovered the demonic faction headquarters. No matter how calm Donghua Shuang was, he could not suppress his excitement. This was a major event that would be recorded in the history of the Xia people. The demonic faction, which had always been hidden in the darkness, had finally been discovered by him. Dongbua Shuang. End of chapter. Chapter 241. Within the oceanic forest world, one of the 9 major transcendent realms attached to the Xia people's world. This was a major world occupied by the Beast Clan. Oh, the entire oceanic forest world was filled with all sorts of howls and cries. On the crown of a huge tree, there was a wooden house. Within the wooden house, a white-haired old man was flipping through a book. He was the supreme leader of the Beast Clan, Grand Elder Aolon. A blurry figure appeared out of thin air in the distance, and with a flash, appeared in front of the wooden house. It was a skinny and beautiful lady. This lady had cat ears, and her face was covered with fur. Clearly, she was a beast in human form. Grand Elder, the cat lady said respectfully. Grand Elder Aolon raised his head. We've tried everything, but we can't find Dongbua Shuang. The cat lady was filled with grief and indignation. We've already tried our best. All right, child. Continue your investigation. You must be patient. Grand Elder Aolon smiled. Our Beast Clan has sent a transcendent among the Xia people. We tried to contact Dongbua Shuang through the communication wristband, but Dongbua Shuang didn't reply immediately. Even when he did reply, he rejected us, saying that he wanted to go into closed-door training. Perhaps he really is in closed-door training for a long period of time. The cat lady nodded. You must be patient and wait patiently. Dongbua Shuang is very young. His closed-door training won't last for too long. He will eventually come out. Grand Elder Aolon said. The moment we find him, our opportunity will come. All right, you may leave. Yes. The cat lady's figure flashed, and she disappeared. Grand Elder Aolon closed his book, walked out of the wooden house, and walked on top of the treetop. This treetop was extremely huge, with a circumference of several li. It was like a green sea. Standing on top of the treetop, Grand Elder Aolon looked down at the vast world. His eyes, which were filled with wisdom, were filled with pain. Why? Why is it that the ancestors of the Xia people gave us so many treasures, while the ancestors of the Beast Clan were mostly selfish and foolish? The Xia people can use their spatial equipment to suppress the infernal world and completely control it. As for our Beast Clan, we have to face the attacks of the transcendent natives time and time again. In a large transcendent world, once most of the transcendent natives died, the transcendent world would spend thousands of years to produce new transcendent natives. Thus, when a batch dies, a new batch is born. It was very difficult to occupy a large transcendent world for a long time. It is extremely difficult to occupy a large transcendent world for a long time. The magical beasts, on the other hand, had to fight to the death. Dongbua Shuang, he makes me feel threatened. What a foolish high priest. He wouldn't even let him exert an extra bit of strength. Their demonic faction has infiltrated deeper into the Xia clan, so it would be much easier for them to find Dongbua Shuang than for me. Great Elder Aolon was also somewhat angry, but he was also helpless. After all, he could not command the demonic faction. Grand Elder Aolon sensed something. This demonic faction's third priest actually contacted me? The third priest was the most mysterious demigod of the demonic faction. It was said that he was doted on by the great demon god and was extremely powerful. However, he rarely took action. Even when he contacted Elder Aolon a few times, it was only through the communication wristband. He had never used the crystal ball to communicate, as if he was afraid of revealing his appearance. What's the matter, third priest? Elder Aolon asked. Elder Aolon, I want to ask, weren't you trying to kill Dongbua Shuang? The third priest asked. Yes, but your demonic faction did not cooperate. Elder Aolon replied. Have you found him? The third priest asked. No, we couldn't find him. It seems that Dongbua Shuang has been in seclusion for a long time. Elder Aolon replied. All right, thanks. The third priest immediately cut off the communication. Elder Aolon was confused. cutting off the communication with just a few questions. In a gloomy valley, a mysterious man in dark red armor and a cow-horned helmet stood together with the frost demon Ralph. At the same time, a gigantic evil head appeared in midair. This head had a thin face covered in scales and a pair of blood-red eyes. The gigantic head was illusory, but the evil feeling it gave off made the mysterious man and the frost demon nervous. "Respected great demon god," Ralph said respectfully. "Ralph Sokka thanks great demon god for saving my life." "Oh, you're a member of the Sokka family." The gigantic demon god's head looked down. "The last time I met Madoc was 30 million years ago. At that time, Madoc and I had just become the great demon god and were still very young. We fought side by side for 1,000 years. Ancestor Madoc is the ancestor of my Sokka family. I am just an unremarkable little demon from a branch family," Ralph said respectfully. "Don't underestimate yourself. If you take that crucial step, you will become a demon god. With your Sokka family's talent, you will definitely become a peak demon god." The gigantic illusory skull said, "This time, I saved you. You need to work for me. I have some plans with the sorcerer god of the Beast Clan. Once the plans are completed, I will reward you handsomely. You can come under my command, and I will bestow you with a territory and let you become a demon overlord. I am willing to work for the great demon god." Ralph immediately knelt down on one knee, expressing his allegiance. What a joke. He was very clear of the background and identity of this great demon god. He was in existence on the same level as the Sokka family's ancestor. One must know that even his brother, the branch family's patriarch, was a demon god. In front of this great demon god, he was just a little worm. If this was in the dark abyss, a demigod demon like him would not even be looked upon by this existence. And the gigantic illusory skull nodded. "Great demon god, we were ambushed at the same time. All 5 of us were ambushed." Ralph said, "I don't understand. How did the Xia people discover us? We have battleships, so we shouldn't have been discovered so easily. Yet we didn't notice at all. After knowing that the 5 of you were ambushed, I have been thinking about this as well." The gigantic snow eagle looked at the mysterious crimson-armored man beside him. "Child, have you asked the great elder of the sorcerer god palace?" Reporting to the great demon god, "I have." The great elder said, "They have always been looking for Dongbua Shuang. However, for the past 6 years, they haven't been able to find him. Dongbua Shuang should be in closed-door training." The mysterious crimson-armored man said, "I have suspected it before." The illusory skull's voice boomed. "For so many years, the Xia people have never been able to discover the locations of the demon generals so easily. The fall of the Crimson Rock Mountain happened 1,000,000 years ago. If the Xia people obtained some treasure from the Crimson Rock Mountain, they should have used it 1,000,000 years ago. When the demon army first arrived, the Xia people were also in a hurry to deal with it. In the end, they relied on Dongbua Shuang to eliminate the threat in one fell swoop. He even killed a team of reincarnators from the Temporal Temple. In just 6 years, the locations of the 5 demon generals were all discovered. Coincidentally, for the past 6 years, he has been in closed-door training. I can't help but suspect that the 5 of you were discovered by him." The gigantic illusory skull said, "Dongbua Shuang discovered us?" Ralph was shocked. The gigantic skull's blood-colored eyes were filled with killing intent. "Discovering you is a small matter. What I am most worried about is the 5 of you are scattered all over the mortal world. To find the 5 of you, I'm afraid that he would have to search everywhere. While searching, would he have already discovered the most important headquarters of the demonic faction in the mortal world?" The frost demon Ralph and the mysterious crimson-armored man were both stunned. "If he discovered us, then we will be in big trouble," the gigantic skull said. Chapter 242. He was so excited that his heartbeat sped up. If Mountain Lord He, Si Kong Yang, or even the Dragon Mountain Emperor encountered such a thing, they would also be incomparably excited. The demonic faction headquarters had always been a threat to the entire Xia people's world. Every Xia people transcendent knew what it meant. Every major power needed a headquarters. Only with a headquarters could they store large amounts of secret techniques, weapons, resources, and treasures. These were all necessary to nurture transcendence. Why was the demonic faction so strong? Why were they able to attract transcendence to join them? It was because they could greatly increase the strength of transcendence. If the demonic faction headquarters were to be destroyed, the foundation they had accumulated over countless years would be wiped out. Such a blow would be no less than the destruction of the infernal palace of the Xia people. Calm down, I must calm down. It is much more important than the 5 demon generals, but it is also much harder to deal with. Now that it is in front of me, I must seize this opportunity to deal a fatal blow to the demonic faction. Dongbua Shui Ying's mind was in a mess as countless thoughts flooded his mind. He tried his best to calm himself down. This matter was too important. He did not think that he could single-handedly conquer the demonic faction headquarters. Even the Black Wind Deity Palace was difficult to conquer. This demonic faction headquarters would only be stronger. I must calm down after half an hour. Dongbua Shuiying felt that he had completely calmed down before thinking about how to deal with the situation. Firstly, I cannot do it alone. I must find Palace Lord Shen. In the future, when I attack the demonic faction headquarters, I will need a large number of demigods from the Xia people. Secondly, I must be patient. I have already discovered the identity of the High Priest, Shi Yun. I have also discovered Sidu Hong's identity as a traitor. However, for the demonic faction to be able to move unhindered for so long, their strength is definitely not that simple. I'm afraid that there are more traitors outside, continuing to pretend to be normal transcendents from the Xia people. Dongbua Shuiying sneered. Shi Yun, Sidu Hong, and other extremely selfish transcendents who only cared about themselves and did not care about the lives of the Xia people. They had secretly joined the demonic faction while still pretending on the surface. I have to wait. Let's wait patiently. I believe that as time passes, I will gradually discover new traitors. Dongbua Shuiying nodded slightly. Especially the demigods. The demonic faction should have more than one demigod. A half-deity traitor was too dangerous. Third, just now, the white-robed girl and the grand priest mentioned the plan of the sorcerer god and the great demon god. Dongbua Shuiying frowned. What is the plan? The sorcerer god is a powerful deity that the beast clan worships. Their plans are not a good thing for the Xia people. Only with patience will there be gains. Dongbua Shuiying looked at Pu Yongbo, who was being tortured in the torture chamber. Pu Yong, I'm sorry. Please bear with it. The implications of the demonic faction headquarters were too great. Pu Yong was not in danger of dying yet. As for the punishment, for the sake of the Xia people, Pu Yong could only endure it first. Snorrock Castle. Jing Xiu. The red-robed Dongbua Shuiying directly knocked on the door and entered Jing Xiu's laboratory. Senior Brother Snow Eagle. Jing Xiu revealed a happy expression. Why are you here? It's a very important matter, one that will have a profound impact on the Xia people. The red-robed Dongbua Shuiying took a deep breath. I'm ashamed, but I have to keep this matter a secret. What I want to tell you is this Qi doppelganger of mine will also leave Snorrock Castle. Every night, I will take the initiative to contact you. Normally, you won't even be able to find me through my communication wristband. Go and do what you have to do. Jing Xiu was also curious. What matter could have a profound impact on the Xia people? However, she also understood that the Xia people had their own rules. Many things had to be kept a secret, no matter how much trust they had. No one knew who was a spy of the demonic faction. Due to the rules, Dongbua Shuiying could not act recklessly. Are you not in the world of the Xia people? Jing Xiu could not help but ask. I am. The red-robed Dongbua Shuiying nodded. Why can't I find you through the communication wristband? Jing Xiu did not understand. Once this matter is over, I will tell you everything. Dongbua Shuiying said. In the following days, both his body and his Qi doppelganger would have to stay in the mirage for a long period of time. It was just like how the communication wristband was unable to send messages in the mirage. It was also impossible to send messages in the mirage. The communication methods of the Xia people could not penetrate into the mirage. On the same day, the red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying headed towards the infernal palace of the Xia capital. The matter was too important, and he felt that it would be better to discuss it face to face. Snow Eagle sit in a small courtyard within the infernal palace. The palace lord Chun and the red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying sat down. What happened? Did you come personally, or did you send your Qi doppelganger? The palace lord Chun asked with a smile. This matter is too important. I had to inform the palace lord Chun of it. Dongbua Shui Ying said solemnly. Important? The palace lord Chun was startled. He was very clear about Dongbua Shui Ying's temperament. This was a transcendent who could keep his composure. Previously, in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, when he was reprimanded by faction head Si Kong Yang and demigod Gong Yu, Dongbua Shui Ying remained calm and focused on his path of cultivation. Dongbua Shui Ying did not become excited even after the 5 demon nests were destroyed. However, this time, Dongbua Shui Ying's emotions seemed to have become even more intense. Speak. The palace lord Chen also became serious. Other than the true meaning of piercing, I have grasped another grade 2 true meaning. Forgive me for keeping a secret, but I don't wish to publicize it for the time being, Dongbua Shui Ying said. You've grasped another grade 2 true meaning? The palace lord Chen exclaimed. Heavens! Grasping 1 true meaning was already extremely dazzling in the history of the Xia people, but he had grasped a second one? Right. You don't have to publicize it, and you shouldn't publicize it either. The more you keep it a secret, the better. The fewer methods that know of your true meaning, the more unexpected your true meaning will be. The palace lord Chen said, You didn't come looking for me just to tell me that you've grasped another grade 2 true meaning, right? Relying on this true meaning, I am confident of finding the traces of the demon generals. Dongbua Shui Ying said, Currently, my true body is conducting a large-scale search in the mortal world. I estimate that in at most 10 years, I should be able to search the entire continent and ocean of the mortal world. I believe that those 5 demon generals won't be able to escape my detection. Search for the demon generals? The palace lord Chen asked. You're really confident? Most likely, Dongbua Shui Ying said. I reckon that more than half of the 5 demon generals won't be able to escape my detection. That's great. The palace lord Chen stood up excitedly. He could not help but pace around the courtyard, his face flushed red. These 5 demon generals have been lying low all this while, and I've always been worried. In the future, we will have to fight them. With their combat power, if we are caught unprepared, it will be normal for 1 or 2 demigods to die. Countless mortals will die, and cities after cities of mortals will be exterminated. Now that you've discovered them, we can take the initiative to attack. They're out in the open, while we are in the dark. Amen. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded. But the reason why I'm here today is not because of this matter. Not because of this matter? The palace lord Chun was startled. He thought that Dongbua Shui Ying was referring to the matter of the demon generals when he said this matter involved a lot of things. Was it not? I'm also a little worried about this matter, so I wanted to discuss it with you, Palace Lord Chun. Dongbua Shui Ying looked at the surroundings. Palace Lord Chun, are you sure no one will eavesdrop on us? The Palace Lord Chun immediately manipulated the surrounding space and said, Don't worry. I've used a spatial artifact to isolate the surrounding space. No one will be able to eavesdrop on our conversation in the infernal realm. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded, and then said in a low voice, I've discovered the demonic faction headquarters. Chapter 243. Although Palace Lord Chun was mentally prepared, when he heard the words, I've discovered the demonic faction headquarters, his mind still exploded, and he became somewhat dazed. What a huge surprise. He couldn't believe it and hesitated for a few seconds before saying, Snow Eagle, you discovered the demonic faction headquarters? How did you find it? Are you sure? Originally, I was conducting a large-scale investigation of the entire mortal world, but I suddenly discovered an underground fortress that was 500 miles wide hidden underground. Dongbua Shui Ying said, after careful investigation, I can confirm that it is the demonic faction headquarters. How can you be sure? Palace Lord Chen asked. I discovered the high priest. There are also deity warriors and even deity weapons in the underground fortress. Some of the arrays inside are even more mysterious than the ones in the Black Wind deity palace. Dongbua Shuiying said, there are also large amounts of resources and treasures inside, as well as the great demon god's devil's well. There are also many simplified books of the demonic faction's secret techniques, including deity-grade secret techniques. Palace Lord Chen's eyes lit up as he listened. Deity weapon? Deity-grade secret techniques? The great demon god's devil's well? High priest? Deity warrior? Appearing in a 250-kilometer underground fortress? Haha, this is great. This is great. Palace Head Chun was so excited that his voice trembled. He paced back and forth in the courtyard, so excited that he did not know what to do. How many years has it been? My Xia clan has existed for such a long time, yet the demonic god association has always remained hidden in the darkness. Even after so many years, we have never discovered their headquarters. Snow Eagle, you are indeed worthy of being the #1 transcendent genius in the history of the Xia people. Palace Lord Chun looked at Dongbua Shuiying. You've discovered the demonic faction headquarters. If you eradicate it, the internal conflicts of the Xia people will be greatly reduced. Haha, this is much more important than killing the 5 demon generals. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. In every era, the demonic faction would have more than one demigod expert. And these demigods were all transcendents of the Xia people who had sought refuge with them. This would reduce the strength of the Xia people and even cause internal damage. That was because they were all hidden traitors. Once they launched a sudden attack, the destruction they would cause would be much greater than that of a demon general. And this wasn't just an era, it was the same for every generation. The great demon god's demonic well is the most important. Palace Lord Chen's eyes lit up. Destroy the great demon god's demonic well and take all the treasures of the demonic faction headquarters. Their long years of accumulation have been wiped out in a single day. 90% of the demonic faction has been destroyed. Without the divine power produced by the demonic well, the great demon god will not be able to display his miracles and nurture transcendence. Dongbua Shuiying nodded his head. Right, traitor. Those traitors who have sought refuge with the demonic faction must be eradicated. Palace Lord Chun continued. Although the demonic faction headquarters has been destroyed by us, if these traitors are still alive, they will definitely try to rebuild the demonic faction. Although they have lost the demonic well and their long years of accumulation, they will not be much of a threat. But who knows? After generations of struggling at death's door, the demonic faction might rise again. Dongbua Shuiying nodded his head. I think so too. I am currently investigating the demonic faction headquarters in secret, waiting for an opportunity. I have already discovered the identity of the high priest and a transcendent. Who? Who is the high priest? Palace Lord Chen asked. He was very curious. Who was this existence with the highest position in the demonic faction? Shiyan, Dongbua Shuiying solemnly said. Brother Shiyan? Palace Lord Chun did not dare to believe it. This was a very good friend of his who hated evil. This is the scene of his cultivation. Dongbua Shuiying lightly waved his hand. World energy immediately formed a scene in midair, displaying everything he had seen. In the scene, a scarlet-robed Shiyun with red eyebrows started cultivating. Layers of scales appeared on the surface of his body, and 2 sharp horns grew on his head. The aura in the scene seemed to have become more vigorous and evil. Palace Lord Chun took a deep breath. After seeing this scene, he only believed 90% of it. After all, he did not dare to believe it without seeing it with his own eyes. This was what Dongbua Shuiying had said. If it was any other transcendent, he would have been even more vigilant. When the time comes to attack the demonic faction headquarters, everything will naturally become clear. Dongbua Shuang said. And who else? Palace Lord Chen asked. There's also Situ Hong. Dongbua Shuang said. Situ Hong is also a traitor. There's also my good friend, junior brother Pu Yang. He was schemed against and was captured alive to the demonic faction headquarters. He is still being tortured to this day. That brat Pu Yang didn't die. Palace Lord Chun was shocked. He didn't die. He's being held captive in the demonic faction headquarters. I haven't made a move yet, afraid of alerting the enemy. Dongbua Shuang said. Not making a move is the right choice. I'll have a trouble that brat Pu Yang for now. Continue to investigate. Don't be in a rush to act. Palace Lord Chun said. We'll slowly investigate. The more traitors we find, the better. When the time is right, we'll pull in the net. Dongbua Shuang nodded. I understand. Snow Eagle, what you're doing now will help the future generations of our Xia people. Palace Lord Chun said. Therefore, we can only rely on you. Also, be careful. After the meeting between the two ended, Palace Lord Chun began to make preparations for the upcoming encirclement and killing of the demon generals, as well as the more important, eradicating the demonic faction headquarters. Some of the treasures of the Xia people had to be taken out. Once they were ready, they could immediately summon the demigods to take action. As for Dongbua Shuang, he continued to work hard. His Qi doppelganger went to the demonic faction headquarters to monitor them. Because it was just a simple surveillance, it didn't consume much Qi. Thus, the Qi doppelganger could be maintained for half a year. As for the main body, he had to painstakingly fly all over the place to investigate. On the 5th month of investigation, within the mirage, Dongbua Shuang looked at a warship in the depths of the ground. There were a few demons inside the warship, but Dongbua Shuang didn't care about them. Instead, his gaze landed on the body of an enchanting female demon with scarlet scales. It was a succubus with a powerful aura. A scarlet, armored succubus of the 5 demon generals. Dongbua Shuang's pupils shrank as the corner of his mouth rose. Very good. The first demon general. According to the intelligence of the Xia people, the scarlet armored succubus was one of the weakest of the 5 demon generals. Her strength was roughly at the middle level of the demigods. Of course, the demigods of the Xia people had to possess a deity equipment. Demons rely on their bloodline and innate abilities, so their realms wouldn't be too high. This scarlet armored succubus expression, eyes, and aura didn't change at all. She didn't notice me. Dongbua Shuang nodded. This was also within his expectations. He didn't think that this scarlet armored succubus realm could compare to faction head Si Kong Yang. Xiao, Dongbua Shuang's speed didn't slow down. He left at high speed and continued his investigation. On the 11th month of investigation, it's him. Within the mirage, Dongbua Shuang stared at a battleship hidden in the depths of a volcano. There was a group of demons within the battleship, and the most conspicuous one was naturally that purple-armored skinny demon. Back then, this purple-armored demon had even sent his demonic avatar to kill him. At that time, Dongbua Shuang hid his strength and didn't make a move. It was the green-armored protector who acted. His strength is very high. According to the intelligence of the Xia people, this purple-armored demon's strength should be comparable to Mountain Lord He. Dongbua Shuang thought he can be considered to be at the first rank of the demigods. However, looking at his appearance, the purple-armored skinny demon was currently sitting cross-legged. Dark, devilish energy was rising from his body, and his skinny face was filled with coldness. Clearly, he was cultivating. His aura and expression didn't change at all. He shouldn't have noticed me. Dongbua Shuang heaved a sigh of relief. 5 demon generals. According to the intelligence, the strongest ones were this purple-armored demon and the most tyrannical and tall ice-blue demon. Xiao. Dongbua Shuang continued flying, continuing to investigate. His flying speed was too fast, and in the blink of an eye, he had covered a distance of 100 li. Although the entire Xia people's world was huge, he could fly across it a few times in a day. A year and 3 months had passed since he started investigating. Good fellow. Within the mirage, Dongbua Shui Ying stared at the majestic demon general that was sleeping soundly within the battleship. So big, his height should be close to 1,000 meters. Close to 1,000 meters tall, he was simply a mountain, as expected of the mountain demon. Dongbua Shui Ying shook his head. This demon general had boundless strength. However, according to the intelligence of the Xia people, his strength should only be at the 3rd rank of the demigods. Although his demonic body was tyrannical, his cultivation was still too low. His cultivation is low, and he's the one with the least risk. Dongbua Shui Ying smiled. This mountain demon was still sleeping soundly, and he couldn't sense the spying from the mirage at all. In the blink of an eye, 2 years and 1 month had passed. On the snow-white beach in the south, the sand was as white as snow, and it was desolate and uninhabited. The black-robed Dongbua Shui Ying was currently lying there, drinking fruit wine and relaxing. Jing Xiu. Dongbua Shui Ying communicated with Jing Xiu through the communication wristband. Every day, he would communicate with Jing Xiu and Palace Lord Chun to exchange information. After all, he was always in the mirage, and there was no way for him to contact them. Haha, I'm in a good mood. It's still early. I'm afraid there's still a few more years to go. How's your family? Did anything happen? Dongbua Shui Ying transmitted a message. Just today, he had already investigated the entire continent of the Xia people's world and discovered 3 demon generals. There were still 2 that he hadn't discovered, and they were probably hiding deep in the sea. After chatting with Jing Xiu for a while, then he told Palace Lord Chun, I've already finished investigating the continent and discovered a total of 3 demon generals. I want to take a look just now, and the 3 of them are still underground. Clearly, they didn't notice my investigation. That's all for now. I'm going to investigate the sea. He stood up and kept the fruit wine. Dongbua Shui Ying took a step forward, and his silhouette distorted as he disappeared. Within the mirage, he transformed into a beam of light and disappeared into the depths of the vast sea. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Chapter 244. The investigation lasted for 3 years and 9 months. In the Xia people's mainland, at the headquarters of the demonic faction. Within the mirage, the red-robed Dongbua Shui Ying had always been hiding within the mirage. His Doqi doppelganger was relatively weak, and in order to prevent any accidents from happening, his strongest deity warrior, the Gold Man, was also brought along by his Doqi doppelganger. Every half a year or so, his main body would rush over to replenish his Doqi. In short, the surveillance here never stopped for even a moment. The transcendents of the demonic faction rarely come to the demonic faction. In the past 3 years and 9 months, I've only discovered 5 transcendents. Dongbua Shui Ying lightly shook his head. It was understandable. The transcendents of the demonic faction usually disguise themselves as transcendents of the Xia people. If there was no need, it was normal for them to not come to the demonic faction. For example, he himself rarely went to the Water Taoist faction. Only 5. Dongbua Shui Ying was still somewhat dissatisfied. Other than the High Priest Shi Yun and Sidu Hong, there were only 3 new transcendents. Dongbua Shui Ying's eyes suddenly lit up. Inside the blood-red hall, Shi Yun sat cross-legged on a spacious throne. The scales on his body flickered with a cold light, and the 2 horns on his head had a spiral pattern. The aura of his demonic body was powerful and vigorous. With just this demonic body alone, he had the qualifications to be ranked in the top 10 of the demigod list. There were strong and weak techniques passed down by the demonic gods for cultivating dark magic. Legend has it that in the dark abyss, the demonic body, cultivated by the best techniques, was even more perfect than that of an innate superior demon. There was a limit to one's bloodline talent, but cultivation was limitless. Ooh! Xian suddenly let out a long and slow breath. The entire blood-colored hall was filled with a vast and mighty rumbling sound. Then he slowly breathed in. The breath was distant, as if a terrifying monster was breathing. The scales on the surface of his body also retracted, and the sharp horns on his head also retracted. Xian opened his eyes, revealing a trace of unwillingness. My realm is still lacking. Even now, I have not been able to cultivate this demonic body to perfection. I, the high priest, am actually inferior to the third priest. Humph, if I could be as doted on by the great demon god like the third priest, I might also be able to cultivate my demon body to perfection. I wonder who he is. Which one of the demigods of the Xia people is he? Xian thought to himself. The demigods of the demonic faction were all in direct contact with the great demon god. The demigods of the demonic faction did not know each other's identities. Phew! Xian walked down from the throne, and his body began to be surrounded by dark magic. The dark magic formed a black fog around him. After exiting the blood-colored palace hall, Xian quickly made his way to the demonic faction headquarters. In a sealed secret room. The secret chamber was huge, covering an area of 1 mile. The door of the secret chamber slowly opened, and Xian walked in. He looked up at the bronze coffin that was entangled by 13 giant chains. The 13 chains stretched out in different directions of the secret chamber, completely locking the bronze coffin in place. The surface of the bronze coffin was filled with a dense, dark magic aura. High Priest. A fog appeared and condensed, turning into a white-robed girl. How is it? Did anything happen? Xian asked. Reported the High Priest, everything is normal. There were no problems during the incubation process, the white-robed girl replied. I have been monitoring it at all times. The great demon god's avatar is being nurtured very well. Xian slightly nodded. That's good. The great demon god's avatar is extremely important. It is the most important mission for us, and we cannot afford to be careless. I understand. The white-robed girl respectfully replied. Also, there's still 6 years left. We will need to change the medicinal solution. Remind me when the time comes, Xian instructed. Yes, the white-robed girl replied. Rest assured, High Priest. I have clearly remembered the time of changing the medicinal solution to nurture the great demon god's avatar. Xian nodded. Regarding the nurturing of this great demon god's avatar, it was simply too important. The great demon god had especially entrusted this task to him. He could ignore everything else, but the nurturing of the great demon god's avatar could not be allowed to have any problems. As long as the nurturing was successful, the great demon god would bestow an astonishing reward upon him. Thus, Xian frequently came to keep an eye on it, doing his best to prevent any problems from occurring. Xian released his own dark magical energy, permeating the bronze coffin and carefully inspecting it. Then, he revealed a smile and left in relief. In the mirage, the red-robed Dongbua, Shui, Ying revealed a look of disbelief. His eyes were also filled with unease and fear. The great demon god's avatar, Dongbua Shui couldn't believe what he had just heard. This, the fleshly body within the bronze coffin, is the avatar of the great demon god. Dongbua Shui looked at the towering figure within the bronze coffin, which was suspended in mid-air by 13 chains. The humanoid figure was 8 meters tall, and its body was covered with dark red scales. The legendary avatar of a deity? What is this great demon god planning to do? Avatar of a deity. In the historical records of the Xia people, this was simply a legend. There were 2 ways for a deity to descend into the mortal world. The first was to project a world. Newly ascended weak deities would not be able to do this. Only a powerful deity could forcefully project a world from a great distance and through countless spatial obstacles. The consumption of divine energy was terrifying. Among the ancestors of the Xia people, there were some who could project a world. The second method was for a clone to descend. According to the secrets that Dongbua Shui understood, for a deity's avatar to descend, it must first have a fleshly body. This fleshly body had to be native to the mortal world that was about to descend. If it was a fleshly body from another world, it would be rejected. This fleshly body had to be nurtured from the moment it was still an embryo. Countless prices had to be paid to nurture it until it was completely compatible with the soul of the great deity that was about to descend. For example, for the great demon god to descend, this fleshly body must be compatible with the soul of the great demon god. Of course, this fleshly body could only be used by the great demon god. However, to successfully nurture it, one had to pay a huge price in order to make the fleshly body strong enough to bear a strand of the great demon god's soul. The great demon god had to pay a huge price to forcefully send a strand of his soul from an immeasurably far distance. Even the ordinary fiend gods and fiend gods, as well as the ancestors of the Xia people, could not do this. In the Xia people's world, only the demonic faction and the Temple of the Earth God had sent their god clones once in history. That time, it was to fight for the faith of the Xia people's world. After the defeat of the demonic faction had been hiding in the darkness ever since, and no deity avatars had descended. The last time was for the faith of the entire Xia people's world. That was why they sent their god clones. What is it for this time? Dongbui Shui-Ying felt a formless pressure. The great demon god's god clones were too terrifying. Their strength was indeed suppressed by the material world to the limit of a demigod. However, their understanding of the laws of profound mysteries was too high. Many of the ancestors of the Xia people had become gods. Some of them even had high statuses. However, none of the ancestors of the Xia people had the strength to send their god clones. One could only imagine the strength of the great demon god. The Temple of the Earth God was an extremely powerful force in the entire god realm. The realm of the great demon god far exceeded that of ordinary deities. Thus, even if he only used the power of the limit of a demigod, he could use the laws of profound mysteries to kill ordinary newly ascended deities. His grade 2 true meanings, the true meaning of mirage, the true meaning of star, and the extreme piercing, were indeed powerful. However, the great demon god's realm was many times stronger than his. Only a god clone could deal with a god clone. In the past, the great demon god and a powerful existence from the Temple of the Earth God had sent their god clones to battle. The battle was earth-shattering. The Xia people could only watch from the side. They could not participate at all. Previously, Shi Yun and the others mentioned the plan between the great demon god and the sorcerer god. The sorcerer god is a powerful deity that the beast clan worships. There is no need for him to become enemies with the Temple of the Earth God. Furthermore, the great demon god was defeated the previous time. There is no need for him to try again. If he did not become enemies with the Temple of the Earth God, then he is targeting us, the Xia people. Dongbui Shui-Ying's heart tightened. Destroy it. Before it is nurtured, destroy it. Dongbui Shui-Ying stared at the humanoid body within the bronze coffin. Destroy this fleshy body, and the great demon god will not be able to send his god clones. On the same day, Dongbui Shui-Ying's true body went to meet the Palace Lord Chen once. The two of them discussed this matter. The Palace Lord Chen was frightened, as the Palace Lord Chen knew even more secrets. God clones are unable to enter the Crimson Rock Mountain. Otherwise, the great powers of the immortal world would have sent their god clones there long ago. Not being able to enter the Crimson Rock Mountain means that they are targeting us, the Xia people. The Palace Lord Chun had the same thoughts as Dongbui Shui-Ying. We, the Xia people, and the great demon god have always been enemies. Since that is the case, there is no need to worry about offending him. Destroy the fleshy body before it is fully nurtured. Didn't you say that the next time Shi Yun changes his medicinal solution would be 6 years later? Then we will act before he changes his medicine. Continue to investigate, and we will act 6 years later. All right, Dongbui Shui-Ying agreed. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.